All right. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us around the bonfire. My name's Logan. I'm joined by my friends Adam and Andy here today for our podcast.
And we are just three mid 20-year-old guys just chilling around the bonfire, talking about philosophy, psychology, technology, education, and things about the times and life in general.
Yep. Can't gather around a real bonfire right now because it is May of 2020, so we're doing what we can.
Gotta get an intern. Let's get an intern just to do all this
That's a good
editing.
idea. Yeah,
Just
definitely.
kidding. Have Adam pay them.
Yeah, well, when we start acquiring or when we start generating passive income from this podcast, we could look into that a little further. But
Let's
until
just
then,
your
fortunately, we'll
piggy
have to
bank
do this
is
all by
the
ourselves.
passive income.
Yeah.
My savings account.
Yeah, that's passive, right?
For
If it was
now.
growing.
That's not. Yeah, it's not coming in. It's staying in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
passive
and,
just flat come.
yeah, flat.
Flat cum.
Uh,
That's pretty good.
all right, all right.
Yeah.
Well,
Actually, it's more you're actually losing money by keeping it in a savings account
oh yeah,
because uh the interest rates off of a savings account don't keep up with inflation rates. So
yeah.
it's actually better to not have your money saved in a bank account and invest it somewhere. I just haven't found a place where I'm comfortable investing it yet.
Mm,
Should
yeah.
invest it in yourself.
Yes.
That's like a bumper stick or like a mug says,
Yeah,
"I
invest
invest
in yourself.
myself."
I hate when like yeah, I hate that phrase when obviously that is a very good thing to do. Like yes, invest in yourself. Like
Uh-huh.
invest in your mind. Your mind is a very huge investment and if you're not treating your brain correctly or treating your brain the way it needs to be treated and expanding your knowledge, expanding your wisdom, um yeah, that's just a lot of wasted time, a lot of wasted energy, a lot of wasted life. Um, I don't even remember what I
Agreed.
was saying.
Oh, you're talking about
Oh,
income.
investing in yourself. Yeah.
Uh,
I was just going to say I hate when I'm searching for good advice or wisdom from entrepreneurs. And that's always like their number one thing is invest in yourself. I'm like, that's not
you
what
gotta
I want to
believe in
hear.
yourself.
Like,
That's how
yeah,
you.
I know that already. I'm already investing in myself. That's what I've been doing
Oh yeah,
for the past I don't know. I don't know when I started investing in myself. I don't have a specific time
probably.
frame for that,
How
but
old are you? It's
24.
there you go, 24 years. No, I'm sure.
But I feel like I haven't been investing in myself for 24 years. I've been alive for 24 years, but that's not
Well, you
how long I've been.
haven't been investing in anyone else, so I don't know. Okay.
I just haven't been investing, period.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's also an option. But yeah, all right.
Uh, but yes, investing in if you're not already investing in yourself, that is important. And if you've never heard, for anyone who's listening who has never heard that advice before, invest in yourself. That is very important to do.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's already a given. And when you're looking for more specific advice, those aren't the words I want to hear. But they're good words in the right context.
There you go. It's like
Yeah.
you got to be so vague that everybody, they invent meaning to it, and they're like, oh, I like this guy. He's really wise.
Mm.
Like, make America great again. Okay, well,
Yeah.
not saying that wasn't wise, but what I've heard is like that's such a broad thing. everybody just invents their own meaning to it.
That's actually how horoscopes and zodiac,
Oh yeah,
um, like zodiac, I don't
I
even
can see
know
that.
what to say, like zodiac
Uh,
descriptions work, is the reason people feel like, oh my gosh, when you read about your zodiac sign and people say right afterwards, like, oh my gosh, this totally just described me. Like that makes so much sense.
mm,
Every zodiac sign is like that. It's not just your own describing you. They're purposely vague descriptions so that you're able to relate to them and
mhm,
your mind fills in the rest of the pieces on its own. And then, therefore, after reading the zodiac description, you all of a sudden believe, oh my gosh, that's totally a Libra describes. I was born in October, so I'm a Libra. And so if you just read a Libra, you're like, oh my gosh, I totally resonate with that. But that's just because the descriptions for a Libra could describe one particular aspect of anybody. But if you read through all the descriptions of all 12 zodiac signs, I'm sure at least a majority of the population can relate to a majority of all the descriptions for the zodiac signs. So it's not just pertaining to you specifically, they're purposely written in a way that makes you feel like you relate to them. So same tactic as the Make America Great Again slogan.
yeah, it's the
I
Trump
don't
tactic.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know
Um,
what the name for that tactic is,
no,
or
I don't
even if
know.
there is a name. I'm sure there is. But
Yeah,
yeah,
there's a
just
name
a
for everything.
psychological concept a lot of people use, especially if you're in like fortune telling and that kind of stuff.
Mm.
Yeah.
Was it mystic? Mystic
Yeah,
arts.
mystic
Is it?
arts,
Oh,
Zoroastrianism, mysticism,
mystic.
zodiac stuff, all
Gypsyism.
those.
What do you call like gypsies? Gypsyism or that
A
whole.
gypsies are just a culture of
Okay.
nomadic people. Um,
Okay.
I don't think a gypsy is a specific. I guess you could use gypsy to describe a way of life. Um,
Like a science.
but
Of,
historically, gypsies were ethnically of um, like a northwestern Middle Eastern culture that were nomadic, uh, more throughout Europe specifically. Um, I don't know much about the history of gypsies, but I know they've been um, can't remember the word I'm looking for.
that's okay. It'll come to you.
Yeah. I don't know why it's not coming to me. It's such a simple word. What's the word for when one group of people kind of abuses like another group of like is prejudice against another group of people?
Discriminates.
It's a very general term and I don't know why it's not coming to me.
Hates. Uh,
Dislike. I don't know.
bully.
Sure.
Is mean to.
So historically the gypsies have been hated on a lot,
Hate.
like a lot of other minority ethnic
Is it
groups.
oppressed?
Uh,
Oppressed.
oh.
Hey.
Thank you. Goodness gracious. Why?
With the context, when you said the context, it's like, oh, I know what you're saying.
Right. Yeah. I don't obviously I'm really bad with words. That's why we're at least that's why I'm doing this podcast project in the first place is to get better at speaking and talking and
Hmm.
all
Well, you
that
got
all that
us.
good stuff. Communication.
That's why.
So
That's why we're on the
as
show
you
with you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Fill in
Yeah,
your
as
sentences. Finish your sentences. That's,
thanks guys. I really appreciate
oh.
your support.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no,
All
I
right. Well.
think this is definitely learning how to podcast, at least what I've felt so far has been a great tool for me to practice speaking, practice communicating, learning how I sound when I listen to the podcast over again. I was just talking to Logan earlier today about getting to hear our first episode for the first time and being able to realize what I need to change and what I could do differently to improve. And so, yeah, it's cool to get feedback. And I think doing a podcast project like this one gives you the right feedback to see what you sound like or hear what you sound like for that matter. And it's kind of cool getting input like that because I don't think the majority of the population doesn't get a chance to hear what their actual voices sound like and hear the minor kinks and details and inflections in the way they sound and the way they talk. And so it's kind of cool doing this project to look into that a bit and see, oh, how could I become a better speaker? How could I become a better communicator and sound better? I think one thing I noticed too, like how much voices play in, I guess, the quality or attractiveness of a sound. Um,
Yeah. We should
yeah, there's
try.
just like power behind voices, and I think Andy has a really, really good voice for
Oh
podcasting.
no.
And I
Oh
was
no.
listening to it with my buddy JJ, and
Yeah.
yeah, he agreed too. We were both like, "Wow, Andy actually has a really good podcasting voice.
Oh man.
Like it's just clear and you enunciate really well." And I think that's something I need to work on. Like my voice right now is not good for podcasting, but through this project, I'll be able to get to grow and learn and improve on that. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like Andy is not as nasally as us. Like you and I
Oh
both
Yeah,
no.
have
no,
kind of nasally voices, but Andy's is more
I
like
agree.
easy to listen to, I think. I think that might be part of
Yeah.
it.
Mm.
You know, we should like I could make us all have deep voices for one. We should
Oh
try
yeah.
that and just see
That
how
would
that
ruin
goes.
the whole point of this
I know
podcast is to be as
it.
natural as possible, and that's like the
Oh
complete
yeah.
opposite.
Yeah.
Just
Be
make
fun.
Adam have a really high pitched helium voice.
That would be pretty
We'll have
funny. That
normal.
would be
We'll have
pretty
normal
funny.
voices, so it's can.
But yeah,
Well, that's good. That's kind of
it's a
cool
good
that you
learning
guys are.
opportunity. Use any opportunity in your life as an opportunity to grow and to learn.
Mm, nice.
Yeah.
That's
Sweet.
So Elon Musk, right?
yeah. Yeah. So I have the transcript in front of me, so I'll refer to this.
Is there any aspect of the interview between Elon Musk and Joe Rogan you wanted to open up with, Logan?
Not necessarily. Yeah, we just talked last week about we were touching on this recent Joe Rogan Elon Musk interview from I think it was May 8th, right?
Right, May 8th or May 7th, somewhere around there.
Yeah. Uh we were touching on it and Adam and Andy hadn't heard it yet, so we thought we would get before we got together this week, they would give it a listen. I had listened to it already. So, yeah, we just wanted to discuss some of that and then go from there for this week's episode. So, yeah, I mean, what are some of the thoughts that struck? Let's start with Adam. What are some of your first thoughts upon listening to that um, sat in your mind and are still there?
Yeah. Um well, funny enough, I thought it was interesting how they were mentioning a campfire and really the uselessness of a campfire nowadays, but we still use it just for
Yeah,
fun, to sit around and talk and roast marshmallows, and it's just something we enjoy. It's not necessarily a necessity to keep warm. And I think that applies to this a lot just because that's the name of our podcast is Around the Bonfire, and I
yeah,
just thought that was a funny correlation. But in all seriousness, um, I thought it was interesting what Elon Musk brought up about consciousness, and there was a whole discussion in the beginning about consciousness and how it applies to where neural networks are going in artificial intelligence, and how does, like, where does consciousness come from was their basic question. And I think it was interesting how Elon Musk was asking the question, at what point does simple hydrogen atoms, in the universe eventually reach a point that evolves into what we would call consciousness? And consciousness is such an interesting concept because we really don't have a very good definition of what consciousness is really and how to put it into words. And for me, I think um I've always felt curious about aspects of consciousness, and I'm just as curious about consciousness as all the other computer scientists and scientists out there who are into artificial intelligence. And that consciousness seems to be the one of the bigger, heavier topics around technologists nowadays, and kind of seems to be the top. I've just noticed a trend with artificial intelligence being really high up on the what are computer scientists talking about these days. And
Yeah, true.
yeah, consciousness is such an interesting topic.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And you, Andy?
I
Oh, I was gonna ask what part of the podcast were they talking about consciousness? Was that like a later half thing?
No, it was towards the beginning.
Is that when he was saying
I don't
about
really
the
know.
hydrogen? Like, yeah, that was when he was like talking about hydrogen turning into whatever. I don't know. Okay, never mind. Well, yeah. So what I think, I yeah, I've actually never listened to Elon Musk before. I guess I've been kind of avoiding him until now, but it's kind of interesting to finally meet the man, so to speak.
Mm,
But
yeah.
I do like the way that he thinks, uh, and I do like the way he talks too, and the way he phrases things. One of the things he was saying, someone asked him like, "What's the chance that we're reliving this through the neural net thing, neural link?" And he
Yeah.
was like, "I cannot assign a probability at this time." Something.
Yeah, I remember when he said that.
Yeah.
He's a very perceptive thinker, and the way he
Hmm.
communicates is very very analytical. I don't you could He almost thinks like a computer. Like,
Oh
if
yeah.
someone told me this whole time Elon Musk was a robot, I'd believe it.
Yeah. Good way to put it. Yeah, that's what I mean. I always tell people who's learning to, learning to write code, you have to like train yourself to think like a computer. And I already feel like, Elon Musk does that pretty well.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Is this the guy who has that whole thing about first principles? Is that Elon Musk?
First principles.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure. I don't think I've heard of that concept before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, explain the concept of first principles, Andy.
Let me just look it up. I don't want to botch this too. Okay. A first principle is a basic assumption that cannot be deduced any further. Over to this. Okay, then it's just an example. Oh, it is Elon Musk. Yeah. This is titled First Principles Elon Musk on the Power of Thinking for Yourself. Yeah,
Oh, well,
okay.
there
So
you
I've
go.
I've
I
kind of
guess he
heard.
is the forerunner of that idea.
Ah, so that's cool.
Interesting.
As I understand it, it just means uh boil down your understanding of something to the most like atomic level. And if you're not clear on something, then you just like break that down. Oh, kind of like we were talking about abstractions. You just keep breaking abstractions until you can't break anything
Right.
anymore. Yeah.
Right.
So you just find those first principles. To me, that's a very mechanical, computery way of thinking, and in
Yeah,
a good
very
way.
much
I'm meaning
so.
that. And yeah.
Well,
So-
we're
I see,
definitely
yeah.
glad to have you here in this podcast to translate all of that
Oh, yeah.
computer-like thinking to us, Andy.
I'm just the translator.
I think you're a
Tech
good middle.
translator.
With your experience in what you know about computer science, I think you're a really good middleman for
Oh, yeah.
that type of thinking. And yeah, I think it's very apparent just in our discussions with you and how your brain works. And I think it's cool that you're able to think that way. And not only do you think that way for yourself, you're also really good at conveying the way you think as well as your thoughts to other people
Yeah.
in discussion. And I think that's pretty cool.
That's some good feedback to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
You
I'm
were
always
saying
worried.
earlier that. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm always worried that, you start training yourself to be more like a computer, and then now you're acting like one and no one wants to talk to you. Well, okay, but like, yeah, I think it could get a little off-putting sometimes
Oh,
if you do it wrong. I'm not saying I do that, but I think certain people could do that very easily. But anyway, what were you gonna say?
I was just noting the fact that earlier you were saying you tried to avoid Elon Musk as much as possible.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to get
I
a
don't know
little
if I said
insight on that, onto
as much
why
as
you were.
possible.
Yeah,
Okay.
why?
Yeah. I don't think I
Why
said
do
as
you
much
feel
as
that
possible,
way about
but
Elon Musk?
yeah, it's something I was thinking about. I think something I have to work on is envy, I guess, controlling my envy. But
Ah,
I noticed like seeing someone who's like, you know, extremely successful or whatever, that it's sometimes hard for me to be like, oh, I want to go listen to them because I already feel like I guess they're better than me, so why should I like? Oh, now that I think about that, that's kind of a counterintuitive, but yeah, it's just like, okay, how about this? You see someone, oh, okay. Well, I don't want to sit here trying to think of an analogy, but yeah, I'll just say I think I have to work on controlling my envy of him because I know he's successful and he's done a lot of really good stuff. So
mm.
yeah, that's kind of my answer to it.
I
But
can relate to that though.
okay, all right,
Yeah, you're not alone there. And
okay,
I've done that too myself with certain like people on on like the internet, or particularly like YouTube, like maybe like YouTubers that have done things that I feel like I wish I was already there, or like I wish I was already like at that level. And sometimes
yeah,
I do
mhm,
feel like, man, I'm not doing enough with my abilities, or I'm not like pushing myself hard enough, or I'm not spending enough time with the things that matter to me. Um, but yeah, I think it's better to um, kind of just decide to like look up to that person and admire them and just shoot to be. I mean, you don't have to be like them, but maybe be inspired by it rather than be like bothered by it or something. Because
yeah,
yeah, it's funny that you say that about him in particular. Because I always thought of you as like a young. I feel like you think kind of like Elon Musk. Like,
oh yeah,
not saying your life trajectory is the same, or like you want the same
right.
things out of life, but like your analytical way of thinking and quantifying things is, and sometimes your language is similar to his. And I thought, like, I bet Andy's a fan of this guy. So it's funny that you have those thoughts.
Oh yeah, I'm
Would you
glad
say that Elon Musk is overrated, Andy?
oh, that's I don't know how to answer that one. I'll say sometimes. Okay, well, I'll say sometimes because I think there are certain people. I don't think like I'll say the people who do idolize him tend to really idolize him and go over the top, and they overrate him. But I think overall, just society, I don't think they. I actually feel like some people think he's weird and kind of outcast him.
Yeah.
But yeah, the people who I know this one. I know someone who just that's all they just talk about Tesla all the time. They're like, I'm gonna get 5 Teslas and just Okay, maybe not 5, but they're
So
always
it's
talking about Teslas and Elon Musk and all this stuff, and yeah,
so they see
I
it from
think
like a more materialistic point of view.
that could be. Not sure their motivations, but yeah, it seems like sure, yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, but again, I won't like try to assume anything about them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know in college, a lot of my professors were always bringing up Elon Musk,
Oh
and
yeah.
the the type of major I was in was very design focused and very project focused. Um, it was all my whole major was all project based learning style, so
Hmm.
um, it's all very much project and design focused. And I think because Elon Musk is such a project and design type of guy, he got brought up a lot. So I think during my time in college, that was definitely my first exposure to Elon Musk, and it was just constant all the time. I felt like I was always hearing about Tesla and the new
Oh
things
yeah.
Elon Musk was doing, and um, yeah. So I think I could sort of relate to that a little bit.
Oh, okay. I think yeah, he
But
definitely deserves to be brought up. Uh, and like I was saying, I think maybe even more than he does. You know, I only really hear about it from a small handful of people. So
Mm.
I mean, I think yeah, he should. I think more people should know about him if they can.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would have found him if you hadn't shown me, but yeah, he's kind of on my radar now. I think it's cool.
Yeah, I think he's just a modern day visionary, and in modern times there's a lot more platforms for people to be heard on and like monitored and kept tabs on with all the different social medias and like video platforms and stuff. So I personally see him as like, maybe a modern day it's different, but like a Nikola Tesla or uh Thomas Edison or
Okay.
modern day innovator just of this century that like when you hear him talk, like I don't know, when I hear that interview and others, like I think he really does want to just move humanity forward. Like he's the kind of guy, he doesn't want to say, well, they'll invent that someday. Like he's like, I'm gonna make sure this happens before I'm gone. Like and so yeah, I do think that he's gonna leave his mark on humanity in a similar way that like those other names have and we remember them. But he's still just in the middle of his life. So I'm excited to see like the mark that he leaves.
Yeah. Yeah. I liked what he was saying. At some point, he's talking about there's a misallocation of knowledge or intelligence. Oh, talent, I think
Yeah, yeah.
it was.
I like that part.
Yeah. In terms of it was, I don't know what he said, but there wasn't enough allocation in science or innovation or something.
Yeah, he said it
But
was they were all allocated in like finance and something
mhm.
else. What was it?
Business, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, like all of the greatest minds, or not all of them, but there's so many like smart people that um they're just like in the finance world and maybe like the business world.
yeah, he
Oh,
said
finance
finance
and
and
law.
law. There's too
Oh,
many
and
people
law.
in finance and law. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like those are places where if you're a smart person and you really try hard, like yeah, you can make a lot of money. And yeah, I remember after that he said, and there's not enough people making stuff. Like
Oh yeah.
if you're all just in finance and law, like there's not enough
There's
people
no
like making.
manufacturing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked his whole point of view on manufacturing and how it's necessary for things to happen. Like you need manufacturing, and America used to be so manufacturing based, and we've kind of lost that in the last century just with the rise of robotics and computers and technology. And manufacturing has shifted more from human work to more machines and computers. but there's still a necessity for manufacturing to occur, because without manufacturing, you're not going to have stuff to live off of or use.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think you'll still have that. No, I think what he's saying more of like people who don't even do any of that innovating at all. And even though manufacturing isn't happening, I think it's still kind of happening digitally. You know, he's talking about like lawyers. I wouldn't even go as far as to say entertainers. You know, I'm pretty sure there's some really smart people who go into that field and they go and write algorithms for optimizing. Like, look at Netflix. They're just
Yeah.
it's making movies that optimize search engine results or something. Have you heard that? Have you guys heard that?
What do you mean?
Yeah,
Well, I guess they'll.
elaborate on that concept a little further. I'm interested.
All right, I'm maybe not. I mean, I'm like a secondhand source of this, but I think they just go and look at like they'll go aggregate all the searches, the queries that they've gotten, and they'll say, okay, so these people look up, I don't know, Jennifer Aniston and what's his name, Adam Sandler, and they're like, let's go make a movie with both of them, and then they go make a movie, they go fund it, and they go put it on Netflix because that's what people want to see, or that's not necessarily what people want to see, but that's what people search for and are expecting. So,
so
you
it
know,
sells.
Yeah, so it sells, and I guess I don't know. I guess if you want to be optimistic, it makes it so people enjoy the platform more than they would. I guess because okay, I don't know what their reason for doing that is, but it doesn't seem like that's gonna necessarily make for the best combinations of actors and topics. But who knows?
Yeah.
It could be. But either way, that's like somebody, you know, some computer scientist coming up with an algorithm for that. Someone who's dedicating their time to that instead of, you know, going to the moon or going to Mars, something like that. So that's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah, that was a good point. I think I could see that too.
With the misallocation of talent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
I
how
don't
do
know
you
if you
solve that?
I'm wondering if you guys noticed this, but it seemed like when I went to college, you know, you meet a new person and you ask them, "Oh, what are you majoring in?" They'll usually say business or psychology.
Oh, yeah.
That was like everyone I've met who's not in, you know, who's not in like my CS class or something. Or who is
Yeah.
like in a GE or something. But
Do you think those are the two most popular majors at where you went to college, Andy?
I would have guessed finance or like finance, business, psychology, and then maybe biology. I think that was the third.
Oh.
Just from what I observed.
Interesting.
What do you guys did you guys have a similar experience?
No, well, for me, because I remember I went to a polytechnic school, so
Oh, that's
we
true.
had everything. And the cool thing about Cal Poly is not only did we have everything, but it was also really well balanced. However, Cal Poly is known for its engineering program, and so there were a lot of engineers there. That
Okay.
might just be because I was doing electrical engineering there. So I was surrounded by engineers all the time through that.
Right. Yeah.
But I feel like when it came to just meeting a random stranger out on campus somewhere, there I found an equal number of, you know, psychology majors, business majors, econ majors, political
Oh
science
yeah.
majors, computer science majors. That it was all
That's
over the
cool.
place, which that I think
Yeah.
that was one of my favorite things about that school was you know, one person can get accepted to Cal Poly for an engineering degree, and then another person could get accepted to the same school on an agricultural degree, and they'll be in the same location, they'll be at the same college, but their two experiences are going to be completely different. Two of my best friends that I made from freshman year of college, and we've been friends ever since, they were both animal science majors, and the type of classes they were in were just so mind-boggling different from the type of classes I was in. And I was also friends with math majors, statistics majors, computer science majors, mechanical engineering majors, um, a couple business people here and there, psychology people here and there. It was really all over the place, and that I thought that was having that experience made college a lot of fun because you're constantly surrounded by people in various majors that are vastly different from your own.
Wow, good for you, man. That's kind of an argument for keeping GE classes, mixed GE classes.
Hmm.
I guess
But
that
okay,
was the cool thing about being in GE classes is you got to be with people of various majors. So
yeah.
I guess yeah, the only plus side I would say that I would give to a GE is getting to
Oh yeah.
socialize with people from different majors.
Well, I think it'd be cool to have like what like out of school GEs somehow. If you, yeah, I guess that's what a club is. You just go to a club,
Yeah.
socialize with all these. 'Cause that way you don't even have the stress of grades and teachers and all that
I like
exams.
I like how no matter how our conversation starts, we always we always end up on GEs in college. So
Oh my
this
god.
is 3 for 3, literally 3 for 3 on somehow ending up back on college and education systems and
Uh-huh.
GEs.
It matters that much to us.
I know. It's obviously in the back of our minds constantly. If we keep,
Yeah.
if our conversation just naturally finds itself at the same point every time, that's gotta mean something. I mean, come on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Maybe it's a time for a rebranding.
Yeah.
Oh no. Okay, well
Alright.
before that,
Yeah.
let me just share with you
Maybe
guys
this
this.
podcast just evolves into just constant bashing on the GE system and
Let's just call it
college
I
and
hate school or I
university.
hate
Yeah.
something.
Oh my goodness. Okay, sorry. Let's get back to what were you saying, Andy?
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, so I looked it up. Uh, San Diego State University most popular majors. You want to guess?
Business and psychology.
Yeah, 19%
Whoa.
business administration, management, and operations. 8% psychology. That's the
Oh wow,
top
what's the
30%
highest?
of the whole school. So, I
Wow,
mean,
man.
I guess like my sampling was, accurate of this, but that's crazy. Where are all those
Wow.
CS students?
Wait,
Where are they?
does it
Is
say
there a
what
percentage?
This chart only shows the top like 8.
what
And
are
it's
Economics is
not
the
even.
lowest.
can you read the top 8 in order? I'm
Oh yeah, yeah.
curious.
So business psychology, rhetoric and composition writing studies. How is that higher than okay? Health and physical education, fine and studio arts, criminal justice, liberal arts sciences, economics. How is fine and studio arts higher than computer science?
Hmm.
That is so funny. Wow, your sampling
Yeah, I guess
size
so.
was
What's
correct on the
the
business
percentage
and
of the
psychology.
lowest one, Andy? Economics was the
Lowest is
lowest?
three,
That's
three
so
percent of this chart. I don't know how
Dang.
recent this chart is, but oh, this is 2018. Oh, that was when I graduated.
Oh,
So
wow.
that was rather accurate. Well, that was interesting. Just business psychology. I don't know, because I mean, Adam, maybe you can explain, but it doesn't seem like we need that many people doing business. and like potentially some of those people be doing other things.
Mm.
That's yeah, because they're 19.
Wait, are you
Well,
asking
yeah.
me like
Could you
how to explain why
explain why
business is the
business?
highest?
Let's just pick on business for a while. Why they're more than double this, like the next one lower. They're 19%, and then psychology is 8%.
What site are you on? Because I kind of
This
want
is
to see
from
this
College
graph. I'm
Factual,
interested.
collegefactual.com. I can't find. I see the picture in the Google images, but I don't see it
Oh,
in the
I see
actual
it.
webpage. So I don't really know. I don't know how hard business is. Like maybe it's, maybe it is considered a rocket science kind of topic, but I always thought it was like, oh, just open up Excel, learn how to do a
Yeah.
formula. Okay, not really, but I mean, how hard can business be?
Well, I think that's the reason why business and psychology are the most popular there. And I don't want to
Yeah,
bash on business and psychology majors out there. If that's your calling, then more power to you. But I think you're onto something, Andy. I think they're the most popular
Oh my
because
goodness,
they tend
that
to be
makes sense.
easier. There's how do I explain this? I think in general, okay, so business, out of all the
Uh-huh.
jobs that are higher paying, the easiest ones of those higher paying
Okay.
jobs tend to be business and psychology. And that's a
Hmm.
generalization. Um, and so I think those are the most popular, at least at your school, just because it's the easiest and fastest way to make money compared to STEM majors that takes a lot of um I don't know. STEM is hard, man. Math is hard. High level math is hard. Science is hard. And if people know that, hey, I can make just as much money doing something easier, then for
Okay.
some people
So you're
that's
saying
their
it's kind of
choice.
skewed by people.
Um
I'm still like trying to relate this to what Elon Musk is saying about talent. So, but you're saying these numbers are kind of skewed by people who aren't really driven by talent, like putting their talent to their career, but more so like trying to make as much dollar bills as can. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
right. I think there are a lot of people out there that want to make money but also want to choose the easiest path to make a lot of money. And I've just from the people that I've met at Cal Poly and what I've heard
Uh-huh.
from those people in those majors, according to them, like business degrees and psychology degrees are a joke to get. Like apparently they're really easy. I didn't know a lot of psychology majors, but the two that I did know were able to complete their
Oh my
psychology
goodness.
Oh,
degree in 3 years or less.
jeez.
3 years or less. Um, and then I know it's quite common for business majors to kind of be in the same boat too. And if you're smart enough, I guess it's possible to do an engineering degree in the same amount of time. I have a cousin who actually did his mechanical engineering degree in 3 years, which is just crazy. But he's an outlier. That's not normal at all. Most engineering majors spend 4 or more years in college, where I think it's quite common for psychology majors to spend 3 or less, and same thing with business majors, 4 or less years. So I don't mean to like
Yeah,
pick
yeah,
on
of course.
business or psychology majors, um, especially as a STEM major. I don't want to make myself sound arrogant because I studied engineering in college, but I think just generally business and psychology tend to be easier. I had a professor speak in one of my lectures in an electrical engineering course, and she did her bachelor's in electrical engineering and then went off to get her MBA afterwards, her master's in business administration. And she was saying, like, oh my gosh, coming from a background in electrical engineering, like a business major was a joke. And so when I heard her say that, I was like, oh
Oh,
wow,
that's what.
maybe
Okay.
like, you know, that's there's probably some weight to that. And
Yeah.
um yeah, I don't know. But that's my 2 cents on why I think business and psychology majors might be
Okay.
the most popular, at least for
Yeah.
SDSU. But I think in general, they're just popular because they tend to be easier. It's easier to get accepted into a business major and psychology major, just in general. Um,
Maybe. Yeah.
yeah, they're and it's weird, kind of having to vocalize it out loud. I think in college, and at least during my experiences there at the time, everyone kind of has this sense or this feeling that there is a hierarchy between all the majors, and no one really talks about it out loud because people higher up in the hierarchy are afraid to come off as arrogant or bash on other majors, and then people who are apparently lower in the hierarchy of majors like don't want to feel less than, which is understandable. And but I think everyone kind of has a sense like, yeah, some majors are harder than other
Mm.
majors, and that's just the way things go sometimes. And everyone's brain works differently.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
um but that doesn't mean anybody's less than. I'm not saying business majors or psychology majors are any less than an engineering major. That's just people just work differently and think differently. And like I said earlier, I still stand by it. If you feel that business or psychology is your calling, then by all means, like, go do it. That's what your purpose to do. So enjoy it.
Yeah.
Good. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, definitely. So Adam, why do you want to go into it as because you've said that you want to do it like in a for a master's program or something like that, right?
Yeah, I flirted with the idea of getting my MBA.
In business.
The reason behind that is just like all the other mid 20-year-olds out there, I'm still discovering myself and figuring out what I want to do.
Mhm.
And my reasoning behind getting an MBA was because I was thinking it would be very handy, it would be very helpful, and it would look good on a resume to have a master's degree. And because I don't know what I want to specialize in per se, I was my train of thought went from, okay, I want to get a master's degree. I don't know what I want to do. Therefore, strategically, it would be in my favor to get the most general and the most broad master's degree out there, which, in my opinion, would be an MBA, because I think you could do a lot of things with an MBA. You don't have to necessarily be stuck in a business related field, which, I mean, that's what it's geared towards. But I think just having an MBA looks good to whatever position you're doing in a career or whatever role you're looking for.
Mm. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, that's good reasoning.
Because I would hate to specialize in a master's degree and then realize, okay, so for example, my background is in electrical engineering and sound design, and I've considered getting a master's in electrical engineering, but I don't really feel that passionate about electrical engineering. And so if I get a master's in electrical engineering and then don't want to continue down the path of engineering, I have just now wasted that master's degree, because I could only use a master's in electrical engineering for
Mm.
electrical engineering.
Yeah.
Which, if that's what you know you want to specialize in, then of course that's the right decision to do. For me, I have no idea what I want to do. And so because I wanted to think more broadly and more generally, um, an MBA would look good no matter what job you do. You know, I could get a master's in business administration and I could still go into an engineering field with that. I could go into business with that. I could go into finance or econ. Um, I talk about education a lot and um, think about teaching. So even if I had an MBA, I could teach business. Um, I just I feel that I would be less trapped in a career path with an MBA than I would in a more specialized master's degree. So that's where that whole idea comes from. If you're talking about getting an MBA, but for me, for business in general, where that my interest in business in general comes from, that's just a self-interest of mine that has nothing to do with me going back to school or pursuing a master's degree specifically. I think um, I found in my later years after graduating college that business is very interesting to me, and not only business in general, but specifically more entrepreneurship. And I
Yeah.
think that all started after I read Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Mm.
And I think it's not exactly business that I'm interested in as much. It's just money in general. I think money is fascinating. I think economy is fascinating and just how money works and how money transfers. And even though econ isn't a hard science, there are still aspects of econ that fascinate me about how just how money works in general. Like it's such a dense topic
Yeah.
and there's so much about it that not a whole lot of people know. And you know, you hear people throw around vocab words or terms like the stock market and finances and Wall Street, and you hear
Dividends.
dividends. You constantly hear all these businessy and financial terms that gets thrown around, whether on the news or on social media.
Yeah.
Um, and people might be able to carry a conversation on about that. But do you really understand how those systems work? And when I ask myself that question, my answer is no. It's the way the way cash flow works and money transactions work on a macro scale is so confusing. And it's
Yeah.
that part of it is what intrigues me the most is when I confront something that's confusing to me, I automatically want to learn more about it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's learning about how money works and business and economy, how business and the economy work together and play a role and bounce off of each other. And um, that just fascinates me. And I think that all started my senior year of high school when I took my first econ class,
Yeah.
uh, AP Micro and Macroeconomics. Andy was actually in that class as well. He was just in a
Oh
different
yeah.
period than I was.
Ah.
But yeah, good times, good times. Shout out to Mr. Pink if he ever hears this.
Michael
Gotta
Um,
send
Pink.
it to him.
Michael Pink.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, that was my first econ class ever, and um, it was a very intriguing topic for me to learn about because it was so new to me, and there's so much about econ that I still don't know about, and I want to learn just to have an understanding. And when there's a topic that confuses me, I I don't like being confused, so it forces me to want to learn more about it.
Yeah.
And I think my first exposure to just wanting to learn about money in general came from actually my 10th grade AP Euro class. My teacher had us do a little project towards the end of the year where he had us log on to this fake stock market site,
Hmm.
and we each got $10,000 of fake money
I remember
to
that.
invest in the stock market, and
Yeah.
he made a game out of it, and whoever came out with the most money won. And I
Yeah.
don't remember what the prize was or anything. I don't remember who won, but I do remember how fascinating just playing that game was. And I had no understanding of what the heck the stock market was at that time. In 10th grade I was only 15, 16 years old at that point, and yeah, the stock market was very new to me. And so I think ever since then it's always been in the back of my mind. So it wasn't until I graduated from college and, I'm out in the real world now as an adult, and making money is kind of what you do now after you graduate college. Um, I think realizing that money became a more fascinating topic for me. And when I looked more into finances, I came across Robert Kiyosaki, and then that led me to entrepreneurship. And because of that, I am now more fascinated in entrepreneurship and business. And
Yeah.
so that's how that road kind of started. So I guess I could thank my AP Euro teacher, Mr. Green, for that,
Yeah, Mr.
for
Green.
our little stock market
Two
game
the
that he
colored
made us do. And
the color
Oh yeah.
teachers. Um
Yeah.
yeah,
so
Mr. Green and Mr. Pink.
it really sounds like we're just anonymizing them.
Yeah.
But we're not. So um
Like, those are the real names, ladies and gentlemen.
yeah, but it's funny because I'm just thinking like, so Adam is now gonna be allocated toward the finance,
Oh yeah, yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah.
or misallocated
Yeah.
for that matter. In Elon Musk's term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wonder if Andy's gonna come over to the finance
Oh,
world.
oh yeah. No, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna not be friends with Adam anymore.
Yeah.
Elon Musk would be very disappointed in us.
No, I think it's well, I think like it's important to notice that he's not saying people shouldn't be entering those industries.
Uh-huh.
He's just kind of pointing out that they're well, maybe that is what he's saying, but to me, it's just kind of sounds like he's saying that we're kind of not, not being smart with where we put our talent. So if you
Yeah.
think you belong in that field, Adam, then yeah, I mean, I think that's fine. You're not like defying Elon Musk, and he's not like your dad or anything. He's not gonna give you a timeout if you. But yeah, it's just
I don't need to seek retribution from him or
yeah.
anything.
So
Like, I'm
so I mean,
sorry, Elon Musk, I failed
oh
you.
yeah,
I failed you as a child.
yeah. So yeah, that's great, Adam.
Yeah. No, I think there's just a lot of topics that fascinate me. And um yeah, I growing up I was always really into science. My first fascinations were with space, outer space, and astronomy. I got really into star mapping and, really
How do you
nerdy space stuff, and
uh,
that kind of led into physics
nerdy
and
space
chemistry. And I got really into biology in high school. I had phenomenal biology teachers
Yeah.
throughout
There are
high
some good
school. And
ones.
yeah, I
Mr.
feel like
Blue. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah. No, we can't mention them because their last names aren't colors. So
Yeah.
no. But I if our high school was a university, like, they would be specializing in biology majors, because we had the most phenomenal biology teachers at our high school. And so I was always a science guy. I was always a science and math guy. Really into all that kind of stuff. Just, it was always fascinating. And I think I was always a curious child growing up, so naturally science would draw my attention because, when you're young, you're asking questions about why does this happen when you do this? How does this work? And what makes this function? Why? For example, I remember asking like, why is the sky blue? Or how do earthquakes work? How do tornadoes work? And um,
I
why
remember
does
the
the
sky one.
moon? Yeah,
Mm.
why does the moon have phases? Why is you know January have shorter daylight times than July and or June, and so like little questions like that when I was young, and you need science to answer those questions. And so for the longest time, my passion was always science growing up, and I still love science to this day. I love watching YouTubers like Vsauce and um
Yeah, Veritasium maybe and Smarter Every
yeah,
Day.
Veritasium, Smarter Every
I
Day,
love
and
that guy.
um yeah, there's just so many fun YouTube channels to watch.
I think Mark
Um
Rover. Have you seen Mark Rover? I think that's his name.
I've heard of him before. I wouldn't say I watch him a whole lot, but yeah, I think you get the
Yeah,
gist of what I'm
I
saying.
get
Like
it.
people,
Yeah.
people like that, they're just so fascinating, and I love learning about that stuff. And we live in a very interesting and fascinating world that's happening, right in front of our eyes, and we're not even aware of it because it's either too small or it's a substance that we can't see. And um, yeah, I've just always been fascinated with physics and chemistry and biology. And originally when I went into college, I went in as a biochemistry major and didn't
Yeah.
last very long, but I realized like even though that's biochemistry wasn't something I wanted to pursue career-wise, it's always going to be something I will forever enjoy learning about. And I think that curiosity to just want to learn more about systems and how things function, that aspect that came from science for me eventually bled into areas like psychology and the brain and how does the brain work and philosophy and ways of thinking, and then eventually that bled into the economy and finance and money systems and cash flow and how does that work, and then that brought me to entrepreneurship. And um yeah, so there looking back on my life, there was a kind of natural flow from how I got from one interest to another. And I mean, I'm all over the place. Just in
Mm.
general, I'm a curious guy, so I'm kind of all over the place. I'm a jack of all trades, but a master of none.
uh,
Which is why I'm
I get
glad we
it.
have Andy because he is the computer science master. So
Master of one and a
we
jack of
balance each other
not
out.
any.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Andy's kind of a jack of quite a few
Oh yeah.
trades, but maybe not all trades. But
I'm like a half jack. I don't
A
really
half
feel
jack.
other than even CS sometimes, but yeah, I don't feel like I'm a master at any of them. Hey
Yeah,
Adam.
you
I
yeah.
don't think anybody is a master of anything. You
Oh
could
yeah.
always improve, you could always get better. There's no
I guess
end
so.
to learning and growing, so
That's
True.
true. Adam, how do you like decide on what you're gonna like learn more about? Specifically with like the sciences.
yeah, I mean that's definitely a hard thing to balance because of my many interests. There's so many things I want to learn, and I've noticed as I've gotten older and I've grown more and been exposed to more and more concepts and more topics, especially post college, now that I have the time to learn what
Yeah.
I want to learn on my own instead of just taking classes and spending all my time there. I think I've come to the realization like I might be at a point where there's too many I have too many interests and there's too many things to learn. And I think that's kind of the negative aspect to being a jack of all trades is because you want to know a little bit about everything. You just get overloaded with so much information, so many topics and concepts that it's hard to really just learn and focus and get good at just one thing.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a threshold where you could probably handle maybe up to 3 or 4 things, but once you're into 5, 6, 7 different aspects of fields of study, I think it becomes detrimental. Because to
You
answer
spread
your
too
question,
thin.
I haven't really been researching anything in the science realm for a while now.
Oh
It's
yeah.
been a lot of more business and entrepreneurship. So there's that kind of
Wow.
trade-off there where I do enjoy learning a little bit about everything, but there's always kind of phases of my life where that's happening. And I think right now I'm just in a business and entrepreneurship phase. But I'll probably relay back to another science phase again, and then it kind of cycles through.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Eventually,
fun.
I'll probably land on computer science like you, Andy.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
do want to expand into that realm as well, get better at coding and
Yeah,
programming, and
I
that's
wanna be
definitely
around.
another one of my interests. It just hasn't been something I've been focusing on right
Yeah.
now in the present moment, but I know it. Just like how econ and business and finance and all that jazz was in the back of my mind for a while until I finally came around to it post college. Computer science has been in the back of my mind for a while as well, so that might
Oh, that's good. At
come
least
in
it's
later.
yeah.
Because I was exposed to the stock market in 10th grade and again a little heavier in 12th grade, and that didn't resurface until post college. Whereas computer science, that didn't I wasn't exposed to that until my junior year of college, so that might not
Okay.
resurface until what's the difference in years
Six
there?
like
Like 5?
6 year whatever, yeah.
Yeah, 5 to 6 years. So I finally recircled back to
Yeah.
money, so it probably won't be another couple years before I recircle back to computer science, so who
All right,
knows.
well,
Always with the
talk to
patterns.
talk to me again. Yeah. Been 4 years, Adam.
Okay, bye.
5 years.
See you then.
Hey, I'll be right back. You guys keep
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. Can you kind of relate to that type of curiosity? I don't know. Does anything I was saying in the past
Yeah.
couple minutes
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt because you seem like you're really getting it all out
I don't
there.
know, spark any similarities in your mind or
Yeah, I went at first instinct, I guess. I have a lot of those feelings with computer science, software development type of stuff. More software development actually, but even then, I don't feel like I. Oh no, it looks like yeah. Hold on, folks. Adam can't hear me. Logan's gone.
Okay, I think you're back.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah. What is the last thing you heard?
I didn't hear anything you said.
Oh my
All I got
god.
out was my question, and then
Yeah,
I didn't
it
hear a
seemed like
response to
there's a
it.
disconnect there, but
Yeah.
okay. What did I say? Yeah, it's I had some similar experiences, but mostly just in software development. So it never really what's the word? I never really expanded outside of the realm of computer science. I always wanting to learn more about software engineering, CS stuff. So, and actually occasionally I'll be like, oh, what if I went back and, started learning physics again or electricity and magnetism? That was something that was always really fun to me, and I don't think I got a very quality exposure experience with it. So I always want to go back and like revisit that. But I just feel like I don't have time to get into it, devote to learning it again. So yeah, I don't really. Yeah, so that's one of them. Physics. There was another one. Oh, even like self-help kind of stuff or spiritual improvement type of books. What are those
Yeah.
called?
Yeah,
Those
self-help
like,
books.
yeah, I think it'd be really nice to get into all that and spend some time with that. But I've noticed like I'll just be like, oh, or I could just go and read about, read about some software thing
Yeah.
or read design patterns or something. So it's like a competition of time, I guess. That's what it kind of comes
It
down to me.
it really is. It really is.
Uh,
And I think that's been my time has always been my biggest enemy is I think I touched on this a little bit earlier, but I was saying how I've reached a point where there's just so many things I want to learn that it might be detrimental to the things I have learned, because I'm just
right.
trying to
Oh yeah.
cram. But the only reason why it's detrimental is because time is finite. If I
Yeah.
had unlimited time to learn everything I wanted to learn, then it wouldn't be detrimental at all. That'd actually be very beneficial because you're constantly rounding yourself out to expand into newer and broader territories. And I think it's healthy to know a little bit about everything, especially nowadays, um, where people don't really go to school to specialize in different career paths anymore. There's still that trend, but I feel like it's becoming less and less common. I read a book recently called A Whole New Mind that talks about that concept of the movement towards more specialized degrees and kind of that culture of parents constantly telling their kids like you got to be a doctor or a lawyer or
Oh yeah. Forgot about that.
an engineer, something like that. I think those days are slowly starting to go away because we're starting to live in a time now where you have to be more creative in your career paths because it's not as black and white anymore as it used to be. And um, the book that I'm talking about, A Whole New Mind, was claiming that it's actually better nowadays to get a master of fine arts than it is to get
Oh yeah.
like a master's of business administration, like what I was talking about earlier. So, in according to the author of this book, and an MFA is taking over an MBA, but yeah, it stressed that knowing a little bit about everything and kind of exercising the creative part of your mind over the more analytical, logistical part of your mind is more beneficial in career seeking in this day and age than it was, just 50 years ago, especially 100 years ago. So I think it's interesting kind of how the pursuing a career path has changed just over the recent years.
Yeah, it sounds like a millennial way of thinking.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
I didn't mean that in a mean way or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't.
No,
Okay, I
yeah,
don't know.
I understand there's definitely a culture shift, and I think just within the past uh 20 years, from 2000 to 2020 now, we've gotten to it's harder to quantify, but I think we could all agree that we could feel a culture shift happening, and um especially with how technology has changed so quickly within just these past 2 decades. And yeah, I don't think it's wrong to call it what it is. It really is a millennial culture shift.
Okay, good. I don't know. I don't even know what millennials are about. What they stand for. I just had a feeling that's it.
Well, you're a millennial.
I thought I was like Generation Z or something.
Well, your birth year
We're
is
Generation
95.
Z, I think.
Your birth
Oh,
rate,
is that different?
you're
I don't even
95.
know. Okay.
You're born 95, right?
Yeah.
Both of you.
Yeah.
Generation X, and then millennials, the cutoff year is I think around 97.
Oh,
So
okay.
you're still a millennial, which is also known as Generation Y. And then after, yeah. So millennial is Generation Y, and then after that, starting in around like 97 or 98 is the beginning of Generation Z
Gen
or
Z.
Z. Yeah, as
Oh yeah.
All the youngins nowadays, they're all Generation Z.
so we can finally we can say like
Oh, okay.
back in
So I
my
can.
day to them.
Ah.
We can say that if we're talking to that generation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Only
Yeah.
them though. Everyone who's older than us.
But
That
I
doesn't
do
apply.
find it interesting sometimes to think about the generational differences. I don't know, that thought process entertains some of my brain cycles in the last
What
like
diff
couple of years.
do you like what generations are you comparing?
I guess I'm
Or
thinking
typically?
about like our generation in our 20s versus like like those before us, like
Oh, okay.
Generation X and like the baby boomers and
Do you
stuff.
oh yeah, okay. Baby boomers. I don't know. You guys have to like tell me what these mean, but I thought baby
Yeah.
boomers were like 60s, born in the
Yeah.
60s.
So I'll
Okay.
explain.
If
So
you were born in between, or if you're born from the years after World War II to 1964, so basically if you're born throughout the 50s, you're considered a baby boomer. And they were baby
yeah,
boomers because of that was the period after World War II.
yeah, 1964 is the cutoff year. So that's the youngest baby boomer is 1964, and the oldest Generation X is 1965.
Okay.
Yeah, so each
I
generation is roughly around like 20-ish years, but
Hmm.
yeah. I actually did a little bit of research on this a long time ago, and I found a note in my vast list of notes actually where I wrote it all down, and yeah, I could just read it out. So all the years that I read out, those are the years that the people were born in, not necessarily the years that people were living in. So yeah, every time I say year, those are for birth years. So all the way back, we'll start a little over 200 years ago.
Oh my
The
gosh.
Wow.
lost generation is anyone born from 1883 to 1900. Then you have the GI generation, also known as the greatest generation, from
Oh yeah.
1900 to 1924. I didn't call them the greatest generation. That's
I
That's
guess
a
we should just
pretty
give up.
yeah.
yeah. So what's the point?
We missed it, guys. We're 100 years late. Um, so they were 1900 to 1924. Then the silent generation was 1925 to 1945. Then the baby boomers, 1946 to 64. Then there's this small niche kind of group called Generation Jones
Hmm.
from 54 to 64. I don't know much about that, but I included that in this list. After the baby boomers was Gen X, that was 65 to 76. Probably a lot of our people who are our age, probably a lot of your parents are Gen Xers. Then we got Generation Y, or the millennials, from 1977 to 1995, and
Mm.
Generation Z from 1996 onwards.
Yeah,
Wait,
so by that,
onwards to 2020?
Yes, to nowadays. I don't
Oh,
think there isn't a name for um
next
like
gen.
the generation after them yet.
next. Why didn't they
Yeah,
just
next.
do Z from 1997 to 2000 and then start another like renumbering them? after.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why they stopped at 96. That doesn't really make sense to me. But
Yeah, and I've read it. I don't think it's very agreed upon in all the places, because yeah, I've heard that 97 is like the beginning of Z. But by your list, I am the next gen of you after you guys. So
yeah,
Oh yeah.
which see, and that's why I don't know if I agree with this list or not, because I think like you're closer to Andy and I than the rest of Generation Z. But that was just, I wish I knew what source I got this from. Um, but I think I pulled this list from a couple different sources. But
Mm.
they were just saying the cutoff year was 1996. But obviously, this isn't a black and white topic. These are just generic years that whoever came up with this, they just said we'll make the cutoff at 1996. So all those years are arguable. I'm sure there's not a precise definition for what years
Yeah,
for what years a generation consists
that's
of.
for sure.
yeah. Huh.
Anyway, I don't know
Well,
why we got on that.
well, okay. We went onto a long tangent of clarifying the generations.
Oh yeah.
But we were just chatting a little bit about, because I had said
Oh
it
yeah, yeah.
entertains my mind sometimes to think about what the difference in lifestyle is between like those before us and us now, considering um the way that culture has changed and the way that technology has changed and just lifestyle in general has. I just wonder sometimes I wonder what it was like for the generations before us in our age, and then us now, and like what are the similarities, because there's a lot of similarities, and then what are like the differences and stuff like that. I do think about that like from time to time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing I think about too that I find interesting is it seems like in just the past century, the 20th and 21st century, the naming of these generations in each generation is named a new name because there are significant differences between the previous generation. There wouldn't be these distinctions if there didn't seem to be some type of cultural shift between each generation, because why would there be a need to separate them if there wasn't? But I'm wondering, just in the past century, I was just able to list off 7 or 8 different generations. And what's curious to me is, has it has there always been that fast of a turnaround between generations the farther you go back in history?
Hmm. I mean, I've
Like,
heard of
what's the average amount of years a generation lasts?
I've heard it as this, a way to think about it from I think my partner actually brought this up to me the first time. But it's like, think about an average person's life cycle. Let's say you live to be 100, just or you could say you live to be 80.
Yeah,
Let's say
80 is
eight.
good. I think um the average age
Yeah.
for an American male is 80 years.
Yeah, let's just say 80 for math. 20, 40, 60, 80. In a
Lifespan, sorry, not
yeah,
average age.
yeah. In a person's
Just
um
okay. Okay.
an average person who lives to be like 80, uh there's about 4 aspects to a life cycle. There's 4 like phases to a life cycle. It's like childhood, young adulthood, middle-aged, and then like elder years, pretty much. There's like these 4 phases to your life where there might be these drastic changes like mentally. And they're roughly about like 20 years each. They're roughly about like a quarter of your life, but it's almost like when you decide to be that next phase is like when you are that phase, like, um, but yeah, there are those different phases like that we all experience, and I've heard that's kind of where a generation is divided. Like, we have entered the like young adulthood phase now, and so our kind of like our life paradigms are a bit different than they were when we were like in our childhood and like in high school and grade school and stuff like that. So now we are the next, or like there is a generation below us now, and we are starting to think about like these different things than we used to. So I think that's kind of like one way of thinking about how one generation leads into the next. I mean, it's also like about our phase of life roughly is when people are going to start having like children as well. And, you know, people we know already have and will soon. So, yeah, it's kind of like this life phase that you typically have like children, and those are the next like generation as well. So,
I was just gonna say, I think it'd be helpful to have someone who's in a different phase of their life, a significantly different phase of their life, that could, tell us about their life.
yeah.
Ask them what's different about the way they see the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be, maybe we could, some, if this podcast grows, eventually we could have like a episode special where we could like interview people of different generations. That'd be cool to hear
Yeah.
directly from them
Get a
what their insight is.
kindergartner in here.
There's actually YouTube videos that I watch. I forgot what the channel is, but it's really interesting. It's they'll bring in a specialist in some random field. It could be a musician, a theoretical physicist. Um I'm blanking on the other ones I've seen. I think they brought on a computer scientist. Um
Oh.
and it's the point of these videos is to, let me back up. So they're called like, so let's go back to the musician example. It'll be musician explains blah 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 concept to an elementary schooler, a high schooler, a college student, um someone else, and then like a professional in that field. And it's really cool to watch like the interaction with the child, and then the interaction with the teenager, and then interaction with the young adult. And um I think there's value to seeing all those aspects of development during, the course of a human life. And um yeah, it's just cool to see.
Yeah. I like that
I always
one.
thought that was interesting.
Did you see the one with John Carmack? John Carmack was on one of those.
What was the topic?
VR.
Oh yeah.
Did you see
Yeah,
that
that
one?
one was cool. And they talked about quantum computing during that one, right?
They may have touched on it. They
Okay.
may have.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I did see that. So
Yeah.
yeah, they're really cool videos. Do you remember what channel puts those on?
I don't want to say the wrong one. I have a feeling it's like Wired or something, but I could
Yeah,
be wrong.
yeah,
Might
it's
be
one
the
of those.
yeah.
One of
I like
those,
those.
yeah.
I've checked out a couple of those. Um,
Yeah, and my point for bringing those videos up is I think there's value to getting to hear from children, as well as teenagers, as well as middle-aged people and young adults, and obviously like the elderly as well too, because they've lived for so long. They have so much more wisdom than we do. And
yeah.
I think it would be cool to, I don't know, set up some type of system where you could pair up elderly people with younger people, and um, kind of get that balance of energetic young people with wiser, mature old people. And um, yeah, I don't know what that would look like, but that's always been a fascinating concept for me.
Mm. Well, I mean, isn't that kind of like what you've mentioned before, how you are an advocate for like mentorship, right? Doesn't that
Yeah,
kind of play
yeah,
into that?
yeah, and that kind of plays into the two. I think 2 episodes ago when I was talking about how everyone needs a Paul, a Barnabas, and a Timothy.
Mm. Yeah.
That that kind of plays into that. Like everyone needs, someone older and wiser and more mature speaking into their life. Someone around their age to share their life with. Someone young to pour themselves into and be a mentor towards. And yeah, I've always thought that was such a cool concept, and that'd be cool to start something that makes that a bigger reality than just talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I do like that idea. I enjoy like, just talking to my dad and or like people of different generations when I can. I enjoy like the way that like I have thought about this. Like it kind of plays into that different stages of the life cycle. It's like almost like here's a general thought I have is like it almost feels like sometimes when you talk to people of the same generation, like ego matters more. People care more
Yeah.
about how you perceive them when you're in like the same generation. And so people might be a little more on edge and might be more like I have to really be my best professional self to these people because they're like my peers. But then when you talk to someone of like an older generation, I feel almost like most of the time, and not always, like they don't have anything to prove to you. Like they just have like wisdom, and I really like those conversations. Um,
Yeah.
and like
That is such a perceptive thought. You
yeah,
put that into words so well. I think just talking about this, it's making me remember I got to go on a tour trip to Israel, and I was the youngest guy on that trip, and
yeah,
everyone else, were older retired people who had the money to afford it. And thankfully I got to tag along with my dad, and he brought me along as kind of my graduation present from college. But it was so cool getting to travel to Israel. And um I it's such a misunderstood country, and I think everyone could benefit from visiting Israel. But anyway, so I was the youngest guy on that trip, and I was basically surrounded by a whole bunch of older retired people, and that was one of the best experiences in my life. Like I absolutely
yeah,
loved making friends with them, and just the conversations that I got to have with all these people. And um they were just so fruitful. And yeah, there really is something about getting to speak to people of a older generation that's very beneficial. And yeah, I love old people. I think they're so much fun to talk to, and I wish I was put in more situations like I was in Israel, where I'd have opportunities to talk to them more. And um it's cool when you're talking to people of your age, you're more having like a conversation and a discussion. But for me, I found when I talk to older people, it's more about listening. It's more about asking them questions and
yeah,
then listening. And uh, they've, in my experiences, they've always been happy to share about their life stories. And, that kind of plays into how it's easy for people to talk about themselves. And um, older people, they've experienced a whole entire life, and they have a whole life experience behind them to be able to talk about. So they just have so many stories. And um so yeah, it's not hard to have a conversation with an older person at all, because you just ask them one question and they just talk about themselves for what, you feel like they could talk about themselves forever, just because they have so much experience and so much wisdom to share. And I just love being in that environment.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that is a really important thing to do as a younger person. Don't let your ego get in the way. Listen to the older generations, and that's one thing that's really cool about YouTube and podcasting in general, and is just kind of facilitating conversations and connecting those generations. And but also I do like to follow different channels, and I appreciate it when I see ones with like maybe an older like generation speaking and hearing their wisdom. I mean, yeah, when I listen to a lot of the podcasts that I do, it's like typically like older generation, like generations from before me, and imparting their wisdom. And I do like to just soak it up and let it be reinforced into my brain. It's good stuff.
How does that work? Where do you get interns?
You just go to Walmart.
Oh yeah.
Pick one up.
Oh, throw it in the
No,
basket. Check out.
I mean, you could try to recruit at a college during a career fair or something. You just post internships. I don't know. You could post an internship on any job search site
Oh,
or
okay.
app, like LinkedIn or Handshake or.
Can really mislead an intern at a college.
Huh?
I think I've
Feel
seen
like-
that. Yeah, that happened on Seinfeld. That's what I'm thinking. I think it was like Kramer was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna start my own business," and Kramer's such an off the wall guy, and he hires like an intern to like just basically answer his calls and stuff, but it's just really his personal life, and this guy is just following him around. He's like, "Oh, yeah, call my intern and let him know." And this guy is like in college, like really naive, and doesn't realize that Kramer's just very disorganized and has no need for an intern.
Okay. I bet if you paid someone, they'd do it. Not everyone, but certain people
Yeah.
would do it still.
Mm-hmm.
Forgot what it was, but I was thinking like, oh, what if you could pay someone to do this? Like, I bet there would be people who would. I mean, you could go to like Craig. I don't know what you could put on Craigslist. Are you allowed to just like? Do they have rules on what you can post?
I think it's pretty open. I think it just can't get into the sketchy realm.
Oh, okay. Let's say it's all legal.
The
Oh.
sketchy realm.
The dark.
Like what? Okay, say you wanted to like play a video game with a friend. Yeah. So like you wanted to have have someone over. They play a game with you, and they go home. They just play like 2 hours, and you pay them.
You post it on Craigslist.
I just am lonely.
Yeah. Could you do that?
I need a friend. I'll pay you $20.
I think you
20
can.
bucks.
I don't see why not.
I mean, people would
That's so
do that.
sad. I know.
Oh,
I'm,
yeah.
I'm sure there's people out there. I'm sorry if I don't mean to be laughing, but
Oh man. Okay.
hey,
I'd consider that though.
if there's anyone out there that needs a friend, hit me up. I'm so down to be your friend. I love meeting new people.
Oh,
What's
yeah.
your phone
Getting
number,
paid
Adam?
too.
Adam, what's your phone number and your email address? Stand by your word. I'm just
All right, this is
give
good.
them your street address right now.
Street address.
So they can just
Well-
hang out with you.
Yeah, well, right now it's 600 North Soto Street, Los Angeles, California, 90033. But I am vacating that apartment pretty soon here, so that information.
yeah?
Crap, Adam, we're on episode 3 and you just doxed yourself. Whoops.
Nice. you've just doomed some other tenant. Whoever the next tenant is, they're gonna be bombarded with people trying to play games, make friends with them.
Right.
What if we just tapped into like the most underrepresented group of people who all just want a friend to play games with?
Oh, nice.
Uh,
I feel like there are people that I've considered that. I'll admit. Well, because there's some games that you can't play within. I mean, like N64 games, you can't play that. They didn't have online anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could get real friends, but other people who, let's say, you really like. Did you guys play Donkey Kong 64?
A little bit, but not as much as you.
Oh, okay.
yeah, I
Well,
didn't
this
play
is
the
like,
whole game. I've played it, but yeah, not all the way through.
well, you didn't have to play the whole game, but they had this game mode called Monkey Smash. It's like a free for all deathmatch kind of thing for kids. Like it was a kids thing still, but you can't play that game anymore. I mean, no one who plays Donkey Kong anymore. But I bet there are some people in the world who at least like that or liked it when they were younger, and they'd be like, oh yeah, I'd play it for $20. I go to Adam's house, play it, $20, go home.
But you gotta pay for the plane ticket too.
Yeah,
all
or they could.
expenses paid trip. I'll get you
Oh
a hotel.
Yeah, and I'll pay you for your
Man.
labor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny
I
you
was
say that because those games, they do get represented still, but not.
Donkey
Yeah,
Kong.
games that are old. Yeah, I would bet that there are Donkey Kong like enthusiasts
Really?
that occupy a spot on like the internet, like
Okay.
particularly on Twitch, and then there's like YouTube channels. But like
Wow.
there are a lot of people who I've noticed like they just love these games from like their childhood, just like I love Zelda Ocarina of Time.
Uh-huh.
But there are people who like went way above and beyond, and their whole like almost career is just to like speed run that game, like play that
Oh
game as
yeah,
fast
that's
as
true.
they can, or like know every single mechanic of that game and like using glitches and all that. And these people have like probably hundreds of thousands or even millions of followers on YouTube and Twitch, so meaning that they can pretty much justify doing this as a career, which is crazy. But I think yeah, Zelda Ocarina of Time is one of the biggest ones, and that's a 64 game. There are even games from like the Super Nintendo. People just basically they stream themselves playing it, but then there are like the competitive aspects where there's like leaderboards that they want to like beat other people. But I guess it's not quite like what you're saying, but there's definitely like people who are so nostalgic about those games that they find ways to keep playing it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you could, if you had, I don't know any other way to find those people other than like, oh, I'll pay you money if you show yourself kind of thing. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe I don't know if you Reddit. There's some kind of Reddit thing, but yeah,
Well,
I would
it's
pay.
kind of go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I'd pay money to have people play like this game. I don't think it's gonna happen anytime soon, but Call of Duty Black Ops 2, I could tell that game is gonna die pretty soon. It's making me pretty sad, worried.
Uh
But if I wouldn't mind paying some money or like join a club to just play with people while even though the game's dead.
well, I want to say um yeah, that I believe that you are not alone. And that's what the internet that's what's amazing about the internet. So, I have a friend, and I'll preserve her and her identity just because I feel like it's a good
Okay.
habit.
All right.
But I have this friend who you both know. You both met her. And so she's interesting cuz she also loves retro games. I actually introduced her to like some certain retro games, and she liked them so much that she would like pretty much like go on YouTube or like Twitch in particular, and she would kind of see if anybody's playing them. And it's really interesting to me like her trajectory, because now she's gotten more into these games than I ever was. Like, for example, the game Earthbound, which I love that. That was like one of my favorite games growing up. It's the game that Ness is from in Super Smash Brothers.
I
But
guess
what? Yeah, Gygus is like
Genghis. Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
Gygus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Guy.
That game is like an amazing game to me, and so she pretty much found her way into this like Twitch, area, like corner of the internet, where all these people are like streaming that game. So they play it. They probably have like a camera on themselves, and they're just streaming that game, and they're playing it from beginning to end, or they're doing particular challenges in the game, like typically like beating it as fast as they can, so that they can go to these particular events that happen like biannually, like Summer Games Done Quick or Awesome Games Done Quick, where all these people from around the world or country actually come into like a certain, usually in the US, like one state, and they all get together and they like competitively will play this game from beginning to end, and it's like over like a period of like a week or something. And anyway, so she found herself just like viewing this Twitch channel, and then like became more and more involved. So like she would be like in the chats and like talking to people, and then she would actually get to know the streamers, and then like she's actually friends with them now. It's like basically her circle of friends is, well, like one of her large circles of friends is just these online streamers of the game that she likes so much.
Uh,
And she actually goes to those like Awesome Games Done Quick or Summer Games Done Quick, which are well-known events by a lot of people. And she like goes and hangs out with them, and that's just an amazing thing like about the internet to me, that she was able to find that niche of the internet that's
Right,
so like specialized. And it's like, when I was younger, when I played that game, I felt like, yeah, nobody else knows this game at all, this game Earthbound. Like, it's my brother and I, probably my brother's friends, because it was more my brother's time, but nobody else knows it, and I'll just be alone in my enjoyment, and I accepted that. But then she found that that's not true. Like, there's always plenty of people who appreciate it. So anyway, long tangent, but I think that will happen for like Black Ops 2, or like any game that you are passionate about that anybody else has been. Like, I don't think that game's gonna die. Like, it might die in some sense, but not in every sense of the word.
I see. Yeah, I agree
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
And it helps to be like a monumental game, like Ocarina of Time, probably Earthbound too.
Yeah.
I think Call of Duty's reputable enough that they won't die out that quickly. But something like Donkey Kong, I don't know, Glover or something.
Oh, Glover, yeah.
I mean, I think I looked up Doom even on Twitch, and I saw like 2 streamers. That was during the daytime, and it was like probably midweek or something. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. That to me was kind of indicating that it wasn't as popular. And Doom, I mean, Doom's pretty big game, I'd say.
Yeah.
The 1993 Doom, that is. Uh,
Yeah.
so if Doom was at like 2 streamers, I'm thinking like, I don't know, how many people are playing Donkey Kong? How many people are playing, I don't know, I'll pick a really just obscure game. Uh, Roller Coaster Tycoon. Do you guys even know that game?
I know it. And dude, if you go on YouTube, they might not be streaming it, but I've recently looked into these, and there are people posting these insane videos of like, okay, my roller coaster lasts 40 years.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
they do these challenges where they like they optimize that game to the fullest, where like if you look at it, it's like the roller coasters and occupying like the entire park,
Oh,
and they
yeah.
have these like loops on it that like, and there's like all this math involved, like exponential
Jesus.
functions and stuff, and
Oh,
it's like they explain to you in math, like this one guy explains over like the course of like a half hour, like how his roller coaster works, and it's just like he's like, I have it at the slowest speed, so the roller coaster's just trudging along like very slowly, and it's like this roller coaster lasts like 40 years in real life. So it would
Yeah.
take that long for your computer to make the roller coaster happen.
Uh,
But anyway, to your point, I do believe that even the most arbitrary games will have like their niche on the internet, but
all right.
there might be a select few like that don't. But you know, I even think games like Run VR will have like a very
Oh yeah.
important impact.
That's a good game.
Yeah, Run
That's
VR.
good.
Man, everybody should play Run VR
Oh
on
yeah.
their smartphone, Android or
No,
Apple, right?
just Android.
Just Android, yeah. Play
Yeah.
Run VR.
Well,
It's,
not that I would know, but
yeah.
Well, you see though, because like maybe there is I don't know, there might be like a following of that game. Pick that game,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I don't know how to find them. I haven't even looked on Twitch. Maybe I should. But if it's not on Twitch or not on YouTube, how do you like discover other people who play that or into that?
Like Run VR, for example.
Yeah.
Well, I would say for that one, it is likely that there's no one like making content about it.
Uh-huh.
But the ones that I'm talking about are kind of like these ones that hit our nostalgia. I guess that's the
Okay,
trend
yeah.
I've noticed. It's
Uh,
not limited to that, but I think that's kind of a general um a common factor between a lot of these games is like, you know how, Ocarina of Time, I think it kind of hits our nostalgia in a way. Like, um, that's like a game that I don't think will ever die in me. And, Donkey Kong is never gonna die in a lot of people as well. Banjo Kazooie,
okay, yeah.
all these games, and so there's always gonna be like these people who are super they just never will give it up. Like I have a personal friend
Okay.
who who I admire a lot, and he just pretty much dedicated his life to Super Smash Brothers Melee. And a lot of people have actually, which is kind of a crazy thing in and of itself. But yeah, it's just his life is, I want to practice Super Smash Brothers Melee because the skill ceiling on that game is kind of like infinitely high. Like you can always go become more skilled because there's so much timing involved in that game, and there's like these um it's all about just moving extremely fast and like things that weren't even really programmed into the game that he knows how to like execute a like set of moves that occupies like 5 frame perfect inputs, which is kind of insane to me. But yeah, like his whole life is just figuring out those things, and that's what like stimulates his mind, and he wins tournaments for like a lot of money, and he loves it so much that the way I see it is just like he and everybody else competing love that so much that they never want it to die. Like, so they're just gonna keep playing it, keep getting better.
Yeah. And luckily some games are, you know, more popular than others.
Yeah.
Uh, for example, what is it? Super Smash Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Smash. I don't know what it's called.
Super
Melee.
Smash Brothers Melee. Yeah.
Super Smash. Okay. Yeah, like that one. And then, Zelda. What else? Super Mario 64. I always see that one coming back.
Yeah.
So there's like a handful of the really famous ones. I'm saying more of like the ones that no one really knows about.
Yeah.
So those are the ones I'm kind of worried about. So
That's
okay.
true.
Even okay, how about this? Well, how would someone who makes games, let's say someone who just makes new games, they want to be like, oh, I want to play this with someone, but you know, I don't really have anyone to play it with.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go to Craigslist, you say, come play my game, $20 an hour,
Yeah.
kind of thing. I don't think Craigslist is the place for that. Maybe it is, but how is that kind of, how do you do that?
So a game maker. So you're like basically you as a game maker
Sure.
or someone else, and they want to hire someone to come play a game with them, or maybe beta
Yeah.
test a game with them.
Oh yeah, you could spin it that way too.
Yeah, I guess you could write it however you want. Yeah,
So
I
you're kind of
mean,
just paying for.
I think you would get hits. I think you would get people who actually do that. I mean, just recently, well, yeah, I think jobs like that would probably exist and would be like more common than you think.
Yeah, especially for testing. I mean, there are channels for that, I'm sure. But
Mhm.
okay, well, my original thing was like, what are people like? Oh man, now this is getting kind of like suggestive, but there are certain things like that'd be cool if you could just pay money for people do rather than like going through the whole thing of like going to some convention being like, oh, you like Donkey Kong 64, and like finding that 1% of people who are like, oh yeah, I still play that, and it's so, you know, it'd just be easier. You just say, oh, come play Donkey Kong 64, $20 an hour, is what I'm
You-
kind of saying. It's like that money in this case, it's to skip the step of looking for that.
I think it would work. I think it really would.
Oh yeah.
I
I mean,
mean,
but where do you?
yeah,
Okay, I don't- that's all I need to know, I guess. I don't need to know where to. I'm not even considering that. That was a thought though. Like,
yeah.
what? I bet you could pay money and have people, play games and such.
Yeah, well, with the popularity of video games, whether they're niche or not, I think there's a
But
whole
how
bunch of
about
people out there
not
that
video
would
games?
love to get paid
Not video games.
to move it.
Yeah, does that to move it? Hey, that's rich. Okay, well, okay, not just video games. How
They would,
about golf or not golf? Bocce ball.
Bocce
right.
ball.
So I was kind of messing you with there, Andy. But in all seriousness, yeah, I think all three of us would be surprised as to the sheer number of people that would be willing to get paid to play games.
Yeah.
Like people like getting paid, and if you could get paid to
Oh, I
play
see why you say that.
games,
Yeah.
I mean
Mm.
that's just sounds too good to be true.
Yeah, but you
I
gotta
don't
go
know
to a
where one
place,
would get
some
the money
stranger.
to pay that out, but just that concept in general, people I think we
But
would
then
all be
they have
surprised by
to.
the sheer amount of people who would be willing to get paid to play with you.
All right. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I get it. You feel like it might be sketchy, Andy?
Yeah, I mean,
Perceived.
I don't think if I saw that in Craigslist and you know say come to this place, stay here 3 hours, it's gonna be a long time. It's not just like you go there for an hour. I mean, maybe, but I mean, if you're playing a game, you probably want to play for quite a while. But you got to go there and you got to meet this stranger. You got to talk to them in between matches and like, it's just it could be kind of weird. I- I think a lot of people wouldn't really be open to the idea. But I don't know. I mean, people like games, people like money, so it's you never know.
I think it's possible, yeah. I get it. You might have to overcome the hurdle of like someone's sketchy radar or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think it would work out.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's like, and I don't really like the idea of using money to skip, because you could do this. I was thinking about it. Like the way you do this is you go and just meet people,
Yeah.
and you just. But that's kind of hard because like, how do you find your patch, your group of Donkey Kong lovers, Donkey Kong 64 lovers of the game? Uh, and I guess you go to Twitch, but if not there, I don't know. I would know.
I feel like this is making me think you could just start like a cult of like Donkey Kong lovers. Just
Monkey
like recruit
Smash. Yeah.
yeah, just
Okay.
recruit them from the street and they don't
Oh yeah.
even know what they're doing, and then start by like paying them money and then get them like
Oh
really
yeah. Just spread the. That'd be fun. Just to, even if you just did it out of trolling. So like, hey, go spread this on social media. Bring back
yeah.
Donkey Kong. That'd be
Yeah.
fun. Well, that raises a good point. You don't really have to go find people who know that game necessarily. I think it would help, but if you find the right friends, I'm sure you can introduce it to them, and then there you go. Now you just invented a Donkey Kong fan. So
Yeah.
that's another way of doing it. But I don't know. I've kind of found that I'm not very successful at doing something like that. In particular with video games, like introducing a video game to someone else. What do you guys think?
I mean, do you feel like this is true in your recent years or in the years like in childhood? Do you feel like it's more relevant?
Hmm. I think now it's become more difficult, but I could think of a few times in at grade school where I'd successfully say, "Oh, play this game," and someone does, and they really like it.
Yeah, I feel like I did that to you, right? Didn't I get you to play Glover?
I don't think so. I played Glover growing up.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, but I
Okay.
think you kind of revived it for me. You
Okay.
helped like bring it back. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a fun one. Though I didn't complete it. You know,
Oh, you gotta.
my thought, one of my thoughts is going back to or actually I want to ask, is Adam hearing us? You hearing us, Adam? Because he looks like he might not be hearing. I'm not sure.
He's just lip reading us now.
Yeah. Adam?
Adam.
Dang. Well, I'm hoping he
Oh, yeah.
comes back. Is he texting the general
No,
thread?
he's no.
Maybe you could
Quiet.
send him a message.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I
Oh,
just came back? Okay, yeah, we were just wondering where you were, if you were
Yep.
hearing us. Did we cut out for a while, Adam?
Yeah, that was the longest you
oh
guys
wow.
were cut out for. That was a really
All right,
long
we got to
time.
figure that out. But
Oh.
anyway.
Yeah, I think you were cut out for almost 10 minutes.
What?
There. That was crazy.
Dang it.
You didn't say anything?
Yeah, I was texting like my
Oh,
friend.
okay.
What?
and Thinking about other things.
I just thought you were
Uh,
listening, or like you were just
yeah.
like,
No,
well,
I was just sitting here hoping the sound
Oh.
would come back. Yeah, I don't know why that's happening, but yeah, that was a long one. That was out.
You had to like flag
I was
us.
debating whether or not I should just like say bye
What?
at that point.
what?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm glad
Yeah.
I waited. So yeah, I have no idea what
Well,
you guys were
okay.
talking
Let me
about.
just
but
bring it back to the last little bit, and then I was about to respond to what Andy was saying real quick.
Oh, okay. All right.
So yeah, we were just talking about dang it, I lost my train of thought. Oh, why is it hard to like get somebody to play a game? Like why is it hard to, you know, like Andy was talking about, like basically suggesting a game for someone to play, and then they would like actually play that game. Like maybe he would suggest Glover or Black Ops 2 or a game that or Donkey Kong 64 maybe. And I was bringing back the idea of like life cycles, and I think like
okay.
in the young adulthood phase that we're in now, it is a little different than childhood, because what I've noticed as I'm getting like each additional year older is that people are more and more into their own like purpose or their own agenda in life. And there's like, at least for me as well in particular, is like it's almost like hours of the day are just becoming accounted for now, and it's like actually harder and harder to fit in like things that were once just a leisurely thing, like playing a game. I don't know, it's like, oh man, at least for me, maybe I'm just bad with scheduling, bad with prioritizing my time, but it's like sometimes it's like if someone suggested to play a game, it's like, ah man, well, that sounds really fun, but there's all these things that I'm like trying to do on a daily basis now, and I don't know, it would be hard to fit in a game, but that's not always true. And sometimes like recently, but it's kind of because of this lockdown that I've been able to have a little more time. But even now, I've kind of started to allocate my time in new ways that are like, it's hard to like find time for additional things sometimes. But as opposed to like childhood, going up to like high school and like early college, like people had some more time on their plate where they did just want things to do leisurely. Like they wanted to occupy their leisure time. And so if you suggest a game to them, it's more like, yeah, I've been looking for a game. But I don't know. What do you have to say to that? Because I'm assuming you're gonna say it, even in childhood it was hard sometimes, right?
I
No,
think it,
I oh.
Adam first because you hadn't talked for 10 minutes.
I was just gonna say I wholeheartedly agree with that sentiment, Logan. I think just in the age we're at now and just being a young adult, we're just busier. And so it's harder to find the time to enjoy video games like how we were able to during our childhood. I think another reason though is I think I think people play games for entertainment purposes and everyone is just entertained differently or in different ways. Like some video games might be more intriguing to one person, whereas different video games will be intriguing to another. And people want to be entertained the way that stimulates them the best, at least in their opinion. And if someone recommends a game, like I could take those recommendations into account, but if it's a video game that doesn't really sound interesting to me, I'm less likely going to play it. I guess if that makes sense.
Oh,
And especially now when you're older, when you don't have as much time, you're more likely to play games you feel that have more weight to you, have more value to you personally than, other games that people might just be recommending.
Yeah, because like a game can be like an investment of time. Like they can take a lot of time if you really want to get into one. But I also want to add to it, I think another factor is nostalgia, honestly.
oh
Like
yeah.
I think you have these nostalgia connections to some of these games that like other people don't have. And I've noticed that with my games, like Earthbound, for example. I said how a lot of people don't know that game, and I just kind of came to accept that. And it's not really someone's priority to play that game. But like my brain as a child, like a younger child, was more like in awe by the game. Same with like Final Fantasy VII. Like that game, when it hit me, I was at a younger age and it just like blew my mind. And if it hit me for the first time right now, it might not have the same impact that it did at that age. And I think that's kind of like a big factor. Like, when you have nostalgia for something, you've like romanticized it. You've got like the rose-colored glasses for it. And yeah, it's interesting. Like I can still play those games and still like love them, but it's almost because like I fell in love with them at that young age.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's the whole explanation, but I think it's another like factor.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree that there is some kind of nostalgia at play,
Yeah.
influencing that. And it sounded like you were trying to say children are more or easily amazed or impressed than adults are
Yeah.
when it comes to video games. And okay, I think that's maybe an explanation for why it's easier for kids to uh, get game suggestions.
Yeah, like it leads me to the thought, like the thread of I get kind of annoyed when I hear a lot of people like our age like
Uh,
complaining about new games. Like
oh no.
you know what I mean? Like there's so many like YouTube videos of like 5 things wrong with this game, or
Oh,
like
yeah.
this game sucks, do not buy, or do not pre-order this game. And it's like,
Uh,
did any of us do that when we were little kids? Not to
uh,
that extent. I
uh,
mean, I didn't like some games, but
uh.
what do you think, Andy?
Oh, I didn't. I don't know. I can't recall any instance of that where somebody was slandering a game.
Yeah,
Uh,
like yeah.
so yeah, I don't. I think that has to do with the rise of social media, not just social media, but these boxes that, what is it, cardboard boxes that kind of
Mm,
came with social media.
yeah.
By that I
And
mean just, you know, people thinking they could say things they usually wouldn't. But go ahead.
yeah, I just think that like a big part of it is how we're adults now. We've had so many games exposed. We've been exposed to so many games, and it's almost like in essence, it's kind of like how people describe like a drug or something. Like the first high is the greatest or something. Like
Oh yeah.
they always want that thing that they had the first time, and I feel like it's almost like that with video games. It's like, man, Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time was the greatest game of all time. There's a lot of,
Oh yeah.
statements being said like that, but I think it's
Mm.
because it hit us at the right time, and as we were repeatedly exposed to similar games, like it never, like we grew older and we had all these experiences, and like comparatively the newer ones were just like subpar because we're comparing it to this thing that hit us the first time. But at the first, when it first hit us, we had nothing to compare it to, and so it was amazing and it was the greatest game of
Uh,
all time, and it's just burned in our memory as
uh,
that thing. So yeah, I don't
uh.
know, I just get annoyed with people who are always just bashing on like the new games. Like, it's a game.
Mm.
I don't know.
I haven't seen too many people bashing. I see some videos. Oh, there's like a guy who does what is it? It's like before you buy kind of videos. You
Yeah.
see that? Yeah. I don't actually watch those, but huh. The idea of that, like, oh, I don't know if this guy, maybe people should just decide on their own. But I don't know. I haven't watched.
Mm.
So anyway, yeah, I think another thing was I was gonna say I think now that there are so many games being made, also the games that have already been made, because those accumulate. There's just so much choice now. If there were like 10 games in the whole world, I think it'd be pretty easy to say, hey, try this. You know, you're on the seventh game, but try the eighth game. That's pretty easy because there are only like 10.
Yeah.
But there's, I don't know, a million games right now, and you tell someone one of those million, uh, I don't know, it just seems like it's kind of overwhelming to try
Yeah.
to trust someone to be like, oh, why should I try that?
Yeah. It's like that paradox of choice. There's just so many choices that you just can't choose.
Oh yeah, I think that's true with music too. That was another one that
Yeah.
I don't think it was games, but that one too. I think it's music that I think is harder to get people to take your suggestions. I don't think I've ever like told someone to listen to a group and they actually do consistently afterwards. But that's all
Mm.
right. That's
Yeah, music's a complicated one.
uh-huh. But that one I think also has that issue. Well, maybe not issue, but there's just so much music and music accumulated that it's just no one really agrees. Or it's hard to come to an agreement on what
Yeah.
to listen to and what to like.
Yeah.
Well, so so it kind of makes it fun though. All this variety.
It is. I think that is one of those things that like our generation is kind of an early generation in that like we're in a world now where everything is just totally saturated, whereas like when I talk to my parents, they always say like, we didn't have many choices when we were kids. Like
Oh yeah.
we had these like, I don't know, 3 channels, and
Yeah.
you watched Looney Tunes because that's all you had, and like we only had these
Uh,
few like um bands, that so like everybody of that generation loves these bands. But now I'm thinking like, with all the music we have at our age, like right at our fingertips on like, you get Spotify or even YouTube for free. You have access to pretty much everything. You don't have to really
mm,
invest in like a single album. And it's like, I feel like when we're getting older, we're not all going to be super like connected with music because there's so many. And like,
oh yeah.
we're not all liking the same thing like our
Uh,
like our elders What do you think, Adam? Can you hear us? Are you just staring
Yeah.
at the screen?
Okay.
No, I think that's a very interesting point, and I definitely agree. I think we're just um there's just so many niche subgenres for everything, and there's pros and cons to that too. I think it's so cool to be living in this day and age where people have the freedom to explore so many different avenues of genres and subgenres of music or anything for that matter. There's so many subcultures for a lot of different mediums. And yeah, I just think it's so cool that we live in a day where all those opportunities to explore those options are available to us. But yeah, I think it does play an interesting role in our personal attachment to those specific things. I kind of agree with what you said, and I like how you explain like the nostalgia factor of something might be worth a little less just because we're so saturated with so many things. But yeah, that's the concept I have thought about quite a lot, with how much availability there is to so many different subcultures and subgenres of things, and whether that impacts us negatively or positively. Um,
I have something
yeah.
to add to that.
Yeah, what do you think,
On the
Andy?
okay. So yeah, I think overall, I think it's great that there's all this stuff. And okay, maybe not overall. Let me not go that far. But I think where it becomes frustrating to me is when you get kind of like things happening. So like pop music. Thinking about pop music, it's a very new thing, or I don't know if it's new, but the music that's popular now is probably at least like 1 or 2 years old, or at most 1 or 2 years old. So there's this like 1 or 2 years of music that we're kind of only listening to as a society, just kind of ballparking. I don't know if I'm sure not everybody's listening to it, but I think it's frustrating to me. It's like you guys are only listening to this, and there's all this stuff from you know 2,000 years of music, 2,000 years of culture that you're kind of just ignoring. I would even say I don't even really listen to anything past 1900s, but even still, I
You're
don't
a
know. Was there
hypocrite.
music? Yeah,
You're a
I
hypocrite,
guess
yeah.
so. But I'm less of a hypocrite because I'll still go to like I'll listen to jazz, I'll listen to rock, classic rock or something. But it's just like I feel like some people they're like, no, I'm not even gonna try it. I'm just gonna listen to the radio, and that's good for them. I don't want to I don't want to take that away from them, but to me, it's a little bit closed-minded. So that's okay.
Mm,
That's all. But Adam, in that way, I'm trying to say it's negative, isn't that it could lead to some closed-mindedness. Kind of
Yeah,
almost.
no, I like that
Oh, okay.
insight. That's an interesting outlook.
All right. Yeah, I'm always worried I'll say something negative, and then I don't get a response from you guys, which makes me think, oh,
no,
you should. Okay.
No, I
don't
think
worry.
we're
All right.
just
Okay.
digesting.
All
Like
right.
No,
I
what?
was digesting that too, and I've kind of got a thought process going here that I want to add to it. What you were
Okay.
just saying, it
Yeah,
makes
when
me
you're
think
ready. Oh.
like, oh man, the 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 breadth of like what I'm about to say is very broad, and I'm trying to think of like what to zero in on here.
Okay.
Um, generally, okay, what I'm thinking is like, to what extent is music about listening quality, and then to what extent is it cultural, fitting into the
Uh,
culture and taking part in culture? Like, like you're and I know you, and I know you appreciate music. Like, you've always been like a great, in my opinion, you've always been a great musician, and I think you're always like doing these musical like doodles and stuff, and you're still adept at like playing music. even though you're like a programmer by day, like I think you're a musician by night. Anyway, so like yeah, you're an appreciator of music, and you appreciate like musical quality, and I don't think that you, and I'm myself included in this, like I don't think that you or myself really care about like the culture as much as just the quality of the music. You know, I never cared about rap, and that's a culturally very relevant genre of music.
Okay.
And I have my reasons, which I could explain, but maybe not now. And yeah, like pop music, it's like music, it becomes popular, and then everybody's listening to it. I think I heard a podcast. I think it was Hidden Brain. For those of you listening, if you're interested in this, check out Hidden Brain.
Great.
There's an episode about this. I don't know what it would have been called, but it's like the more attention that something has, the more appealing it is, and then therefore the more attention it's going to get. So I think they
Is it
even
like
brought
a
up
snowball? Is
it's
that
a
like
snowball
snowballing?
effect.
Oh, okay.
I think it is. It's like I think they brought up like a study about just simply like people, walking around like New York or something, and one guy looks up, and how many people follow suit and look up.
Oh,
But if you start it with like 5 people looking up, then more people are going to follow suit and look up. And I think it's like that same thing. Like people are, for some reason, maybe it is like we're kind of like sheep. Like it's like, oh, look at that. I mean, for our generation in particular, and like even older ones, it's like that has that many hits on Spotify and YouTube. There's so many people listening to it. It must be like pretty good. So I'm gonna listen to that. That's one thing. That doesn't. Well, to an extent, I actually am kind of like that. Like if something has a big following, it's like, well, there might be some talent here, but um, but
you're not
yeah,
gonna like stop at that, or that won't be like your only reason for looking at something.
yeah, like I definitely appreciate certain creators that are very underfollowed, like, and I just find myself like wondering why aren't they being followed more? There's so much talent here.
Yeah, yeah.
Like like how I kind of wanted to start that project of doing my own like videos of covering whatever song, every part of it. There's this guy called, for all of you listening, check out this guy on YouTube called Andre Kane. And he does not have very many subscribers, and his videos don't get many hits. But like the production value is like as high as anybody else, I think. And his musicianship is absolutely amazing at like covering these video game songs or anything, but like, he basically does what I want to do, where it's like you have all these camera angles all in one video, and you play every part of a song.
Nice.
And he's
could you say the
amazing.
name? Could you say the name of him again?
Oh, Andre Kane or Andre Kane with a
Kane.
K. So ANDRE space KANE.
Okay. And then you mentioned a book or a video or an article about the
Oh,
people looking up.
so it's a podcast by NPR called Hidden Brain. It's actually a pretty good podcast all around. I like pretty much every episode of that.
Writing these down.
Oh, cool. So yeah, it's the one. There's probably a title that fits into what I was describing. I wish I had it on hand. But yeah, it's about how the more attention things get, the more attention they get. It's like the snowball effect. It might say something about pop music in the title or description.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
you're talking about Andre Kane.
Yeah, Andre Kane. Anyway, going back to where we started is just like I think a lot of people do just like follow what everybody else is looking at. Where's all the attention at right now? I want to join in on that. I want to jump on that bandwagon or whatever. And I know you personally are not that kind of person.
Okay.
And I don't know. What do you have to say to that? Like, as far as like, why is pop music being listened to, and why are these better things not being heard?
Oh, do you want to? It looked like you're gonna say something, Adam.
Well, I was asking Andy, but
Oh
if you
no,
have
Okay.
something
go
too,
ahead, Andy.
Adam, yeah.
Okay. I'll go first. I'll go first. Let's see it. Okay, I'll go first. Uh,
Go for it.
yeah, it's I agree. I agree with the part that you said. I think certain people are drawn to the quality, the aesthetic. Um, I still don't know what the other reasons for liking certain music are. Cultural seems to work, yeah. That covers a lot, so I'd be okay agreeing with that. But yeah, I think there is some external thing to it that I don't know, and I don't think I'll ever know. But yeah, there's got to be more to it. And to me, it's just mostly it's just frustrating. And I think personally, because I like to tell people who usually stick to pop, I like to try to get them to try other things. I was trying to get one of my coworkers to listen to jazz, and I remember arguing with him, before quarantine, just like, oh, you gotta, listen for this, and you gotta, it's like pop doesn't have this in it, but jazz does. You gotta like train yourself to kind of listen for these things.
Yeah.
I think I'm getting to him, but it's like I'm wondering why there's like any resistance at all to like suggestions like that. But so I don't know. Yeah, I think there's something that's other than just the music itself, something external.
Maybe it's like familiarity too. I'm sure that's a factor.
You get acquainted with it, and it tends to be more appealing to you because of its familiarity. So the exposure effect does play a huge role in pop music, and pop music is kind of what takes over the radio,
Oh yeah.
and so I definitely think that's one aspect. I think there's other reasons beyond that too, as far as just people have an innate desire to belong, and so when it seems like everyone else is listening to this genre of music, it makes it seem like that's the right music to listen to, and so more people listen to it, and then that idea combined with the exposure effect kind of just ends up into a whole bunch of people liking pop music.
Oh
But I
yeah.
think it's interesting how you're talking about how people kind of try to stray away from that and judge from that. Um, I just think some people have personalities where they don't want to follow the crowd, or they think it's like less of someone to just follow the crowd just cuz, and it's better to not follow the crowd. I don't know if that's a good way of
Mm.
explaining it, but there's definitely like people with personalities that don't want to be a bandwagoner and think
Uh,
less of bandwagoners, and so I think that's how you find people who um, see through that, see through like popularity and the pettiness of popularity, and um, just the subjective nature of popularity, and people want to be different and follow their own ways, so people can branch out into their own likings with what genres of music they listen to.
they're like the
I feel
rebels,
like I
I
have
guess.
more to expand on that topic, but I
Oh
can't think
no.
of what else to say.
Is it getting late for you? Is that why?
I'm getting tired, guys. I
Okay.
have to admit, I um I copped out of this conversation maybe about half an
Oh
hour
no.
ago.
Oh my god. I saw you kind of drifting away, so drifting off,
Yeah.
dozing off. Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
think I don't know why. I'm just my brain's not working today, folks.
all right. Well, that
Yeah.
happens.
greatly disappointed all of our followers, Adam.
All of our listeners, I'm sorry. Hey, we all have those days.
People
I
are
am
unsubscribing right now.
exhausted. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I am exhausted. I still haven't eaten dinner yet.
Oh
Oh
my
no.
gosh.
And yeah.
Okay.
So sweet. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you guys I don't want to hinder your guys' zone. So you guys keep talking. Don't mind me. I'll be around.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
See you,
Take care,
Adam.
you guys.
All
All
right.
right.
Well, now that he's gone. Okay. Not really.
um
Yeah. So, where were we?
so I just want to say we could wrap up like kind of soon. Just see if we
Okay.
like finish up any what is it, loose ends and whatnot.
Sure. All right.
Where were we? We were talking about music
Okay.
and
Yeah.
why people
Pop.
listen to their music and pop.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. Radio. Adam was saying radio, I think. But I don't know. I mean, radio is not really a thing in the year 2020. Is it? Do people listen to radio?
Well, I think radio has a different form.
Oh,
What
yeah?
do you mean by radio? Like FM radio?
Yeah, like car radio. You have a radio boombox that you just have. I don't know.
I think it is a thing. Um, but yeah, I don't know how many people listen to that right now. A lot of
I'm
people
think
listen to like Spotify.
right. Oh, there's like a radio feature on Spotify, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the same as what car radios do, but that was one thing I think helped get exposure to certain songs. And they'd always play the same songs. I noticed. It'd be like the same 30 songs for that particular
Exactly.
year. Yeah, so like Adam was saying, it's that I don't remember what he said. It's just like repetition,
Yeah.
repeating the same thing.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's
I
I
think
don't
that's
want to. Oh, yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
sorry. I do think that is a big contributing factor in the whole thing.
Uh-huh.
Um yeah, like all these people are being like made to listen to the same thing over and over, and like for a long time all you really did have was like FM radio, like for the
Yeah.
last like many decades, or yeah, a few decades. So a lot of people are kind of made to listen to the same thing, and then you go to a store and it's playing there and it's playing all these places, and then that creates the familiarity, because like oftentimes, like I think a lot of us are familiar with this phenomenon of not liking a song at first, but then after 5 times you're like almost singing
Mm.
along with it,
Oh, yeah.
or whatnot. Like you didn't like it right away, and so a lot of people are on that same page, and then like there's this thing that all these songs that conform to, and I think that's still kind of there, but yeah, now it's like FM radio is kind of like less relevant to a lot of us, because like for me, for example, I rarely listen to that. I'm pretty much in my car. If there's sound, it's pretty much Bluetooth from my phone, which is getting information from like either podcasts or like Spotify or maybe YouTube, but it's kind of like whatever I want. And but then again, Spotify does create like radio stations. But that's
Oh,
like
yeah.
you were wondering about that. That's not like it's tuning into FM radio and just
Mm.
transmitting it.
Yeah.
Like Spotify is kind of like redefined radio, because now now if you can go to like, I like Elton John, and you can go to that artist and you can say go to Elton John radio. And that's
Oh, okay.
basically anything that's like um connected
Similar.
to Elton John, you know?
Okay. Yeah. So it's not really their choice, or they don't really have too much of a choice.
Yeah, I don't actually know. It would be it would be interesting to look into that more, but like it does seem like an automatically decided thing by like a computer. Like a computer's just
Uh,
compiling everything. Where it's like in FM radio you have the radio station which is making choices to play certain discs and then that gets broadcasted. Whereas Spotify, like it's a artificial intelligence maybe that's like figuring out what is similar to what and then what people
mm,
might like. So that's kind of an advancement there. And
yeah.
things do come to the front page of like your Spotify app, and then if you're interested in like you have like today's picks or this was tailored to you, then you might listen to those things,
Mm.
which is yeah, man.
I wonder how many people click on that kind of stuff. Do you click on that stuff?
I do sometimes. I don't all the
Okay.
time. I don't. Yeah, it's not super often, but do you?
No, I seem to
Mm.
not trust. Uh, like a lot of times, I think Apple Music, it's like, oh, here are our picks for you, and we think
Yeah.
you'll like this. I
Yeah.
usually reject most of that, and I'll just go straight to my usual stuff. So,
Yeah.
so maybe I'm being a little bit stubborn and not trying. Oh, I think it's just I think I know what they're gonna recommend,
Yeah.
and it's usually maybe it's something I've heard before or something I know I won't like, but I don't know. Maybe I should be more open to that.
Yeah, I mean, it leads me to want to ask you, like, how has your usual list been compiled? What is your usual
Of
and why is
music.
it? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's kind of been just how do I describe this? I guess I have this like, hmm, I could visualize it in my head, but well, I have this like set of songs that have kind of like survived over the years, and
Mm.
I'll always be like adding to it, and a lot of times like I'll add something and then it gets taken off pretty quickly. Well, I guess this is true with anybody, is you
Mm.
have this kind of set of, but for me, I feel like I've kind of like 90% of it is just this solid set of songs that I really like, and I think they're listenable for really, like years to come. So I
Yeah.
think like 90% of it has been around since for like 6 years. That's been consistently part of the set that I listen to. And then that
Yeah.
other 10 is just like songs that I'll try for a while and then they end up not being uh, too lasting, and I'll just take them out.
That's
But
interesting.
do you is that kind of how you do it, or what? How does that go for you?
Um, I can relate to that a lot because,
Okay.
but it's like kind of shifting, but it's kind of the same. It's like, okay, when I would say I haven't always been a person to listen to as much music as a lot of people around me. Like, I tend to listen to other things, but music is definitely a part of my life, and I do have music that I really like. And when I got my license and I had a car and I had the USB drive where you could put that into your the stereo of your car.
Yeah, yeah.
That's when I started kind of really tailoring what my core set was.
Okay.
And it it was comprised of a lot of things that I just liked over the years from like parents and things I've seen on like TV or just friends sometimes. But it's a very kind of random set of music, honestly.
Oh yeah.
And I did kind of experience that where it's like, man, I kind of want to start expanding this. And a lot of times things would just be like, it's not really hitting me like the way the other things do. And I just don't
Yeah.
really want to listen to it.
Okay.
And it's like over the years, I've become more and more like choosy. But then when I subscribed to Spotify, I made that decision like 2 years ago. And I'm just like, you know what? I think this is a worthy thing to do. Um, my consumption of music has been different. I feel like it's almost less. Like I just don't even listen to music as often as I
Oh, yeah.
used to. But you know, it just leads me to this thought that I've had about Spotify and Netflix, where it's like now that I'm the one making all the choices, I don't always like know what to choose.
Oh, oh, yeah.
And that's just a weird thing. Like, you used to have the radio and that would just put things in your ears and you're like, whatever, that's fine. It's music. It's, and then there's so many different like things I could expand on here, but it's like, yeah, why do we listen to music? Is it just because it distracts us from our day-to-day thoughts and like the inner chatter of our mind, or is it because it's quality? And that, but
Huh.
anyway, I also think about like TV. Like I used to watch TV a lot when I was a kid with like my parents and or just in my room before bed, and I would really be interested in things, but I didn't really. The only choice I made was what channel am I on, and the things that would play would just typically like interest me. I wouldn't have sought them, but they came to me and I liked them. And now that we don't have like cable and we just kind of have Netflix and we have YouTube and random streaming things, it's like we have to make all the decisions now. And I make less decisions. Like I often just am like, I don't know what to watch. I'm not really
Oh,
interested in anything now.
oh.
So yeah, that's just weird.
Yeah, I
Like,
think. Well, I'm
yeah, go
wondering
ahead.
that maybe that's what the stuff, and Netflix does this too. It's like they'll recommend stuff for you to watch or stuff for you to listen to. You ever see like YouTube's like today's trending or today's picks kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's what they're trying to do there is kind of bring back the random, or not randomness, but them choosing for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking there's some kind of human desire to not have full control over your life, I guess. But I think like people kind of like that having. Maybe that's why pop's such a thing. Is like they kind of take the work out of finding good music or popular music, so you just kind of go along with
Yeah.
the trends. You're not in control, but I think people like not being in control at a subconscious level. So that could be an explanation for that,
Yeah. That's
possibly.
a that's a good point. Yeah, it's like I do feel like I have noticed that it's kind of nice to not try to be in control of everything,
Yeah.
just because but oh man, it's weird. Because a lot of the advancement of humanity and technology has been almost towards the idea of being in control of everything.
Oh, really?
You don't think?
What? Give me an example. Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong stuff.
I'm thinking in a very general sense here. I'm thinking
Well, I guess
like,
something like a Apple Watch or like Google Glass. With those kind of, yeah, I guess those are kind of controlling your. I don't know. What are they controlling?
I'll expand on it. So it's
Yeah.
like
Okay.
thinking about actually just very long ago to now. Like, okay, I don't have the ability to get from point A to point B. I have to like walk, which is just takes a lot of energy, and I have to, use resources to be able to do that. And then humans like
Oh,
invent
okay.
cars, and then that like puts them in control of their environment a bit more. And then, you know, creating, shelters. Shelters have become more and more advanced, where they were just like huts at one point, but now they're like these things that with like sharp angles, and they keep the outside, keep the inside very secure. They control the temperature of the inside. They control who comes in
Oh,
and
okay.
comes out. They control all these things. Then like yeah, computers and the internet. Um,
Yeah. Okay, I see what you're. That's weird because I was I was actually thinking about GPS navigation. particular. Because when you're saying transportation or getting from point A to point B,
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna go with the GPS. But see, what I was thinking was like GPS kind of takes the control, your control, or I guess your familiarity with navigating, and it kind of puts that control into the robot, into the GPS, the navigator. So you're relinquishing your power as a navigator to a machine. I don't know. I guess in because it sounds like you would say that's controlling your environment, controlling your yeah. So I think both are valid, but
Yeah.
that's why I was like, oh, I don't know about that control shift, but okay. Or what you were saying, the direction of the shift was going. But I see
Yeah.
what you're saying now.
You know, it's interesting because I feel like it does fit in, but yeah, it's like I do think that that is a general like goal of the advancement of humanity is like be in control of your environment. But yeah, things like navigation, I consider that to be this other thing where I like how Elon Musk says of brain cycles. It's
Okay.
like we want to put less of our brain cycles on things that are basically easy for us now.
Oh,
Like
okay.
like moving our car from point A to point B and navigating is something that we have all the technology to where that shouldn't be like a difficult thing. And so we want to use less brain cycles on it. We want to give that job to an automated thing. And you know, he wants to make it and has already done a lot to make cars like self-driving so that we can possibly use our brain cycles to like do other things while we're moving from point A to point B. So
Oh,
it's like
okay.
in that sense I do think it's like we're in control of our life pretty much there because it's like, all right, well, I need to go here. I'm gonna get in my car. It's gonna bring me there while I like work on this other thing, and
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know.
Oh, all right. So yeah, control of your life, I think is I was because I was thinking like yeah, control of your environment could be another
Yeah, yeah.
target of control, but I was gonna say control of your time. What do you think of that?
Oh yeah,
It could be,
yeah.
but I don't know about the GPS navigation. That doesn't really fit. It's the same amount of time travel.
Well,
Well, I guess you don't
travel
have to. Oh yeah.
travel is the same, but like I don't know. To someone who's like super productive, they're probably if they don't have to dedicate their brain cycles to travel while they're in the car, they could dedicate it to like all of their emails or like all of this or all
Oh,
of
okay.
that. You know, maybe
Yeah.
writing something.
Well, that would only be when you'd have a self-driving car, an autonomous vehicle.
Yeah.
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 Okay. So I
But
think yeah, with GPS, we're kind of in the middle in the transition phase of it doesn't really earn you any. I think it does earn you a little bit of time because you don't have to like pull out a map and plan your route.
yeah.
But yeah, that one's more convenience, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's kind of cool how like, you know, maps can update now. Like pulling out a map might be antiquated, it might have things, but now everybody's map updates at the same time. And then
Oh yeah.
we're on track to having cars be able to read that map and navigate it themselves. Then
Yeah.
we can just do whatever. But I think yeah, maybe it is about being in control of our time because time is like the most valuable resource and um that's the only thing we can't like make more of.
Mhm.
So we want to be able to make the best of it, which is yeah.
All right. Yeah. So then yeah, I'm gonna go through probably later and think about what technology is achieving that.
Yeah.
I always well not always, but I look at a lot of technology and I think like I don't think this is really getting us anywhere. It's kind of just gimmicky
Mhm.
or just to sell as much as you can. Like
Yeah.
phones, I mean, there's a lot of about phones that I don't get. The camera thing, I'll leave that for another day. I was buying a new phone and they were just obsessed with cameras. It's weird. I didn't
That's
get it,
true.
but yeah, That one, I don't know how you could spin that one. Okay, yeah. Tell me how that one gives you any control of more control of anything else.
Oh, that's a good one. I don't really know. It's like, uh, how do I fit that in? I feel like
Maybe it's okay.
it has to do with, you know, we want to be able to send images of our environment and in a small package. Why is that important? Why does that matter? I mean, why? But like everything is always becoming like higher resolution and more detailed. Like I don't get. There's some importance to that, but maybe it's like sometimes I feel like technologies are developing and they don't even have a conceived purpose yet. But like
Oh, okay.
by the time that we need it, it'll be there. Like having all of the information able to be photographed on like an incredibly tiny camera. Like
Oh,
that
I
might be
see.
really important someday when we have a technology that like needs it in 20 years and then we're like, well,
Hmm.
we're already there because we've been developing them for smartphones. But yeah, I don't think it matters that much on a smartphone. Like that is kind of one of those things that like it's just like for the consumer, it's just like to sell.
Right.
I mean, I do like it appeals to me when my camera is like better than it used to be. Like this camera right here is actually my smartphone camera that I've got set up to my
Oh, yeah.
computer,
Right.
and it's better than my webcam. And it's I don't know. I think it's pretty like detailed and it can actually do better than it's showing right here. I have it set to like 720p just because
Oh,
of
yeah.
internet transmission. Yeah,
Dang.
but uh yeah, I think that is just one of those things maybe just for the point of like selling.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. You gotta compete with other products. Well, and the thing is, though, they're not saying. Well, okay, they're not saying, and I liked what you said is like, they're getting it ready for. I think it would be really useful for machine learning or computer vision. I can imagine higher resolution being used for that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
probably augmented reality. I think it helps, but
Yeah.
they're not really advertising that kind of stuff. They're just saying, oh, you can now take selfies underwater, or you can do all that kind of stuff like slow motion, whatever. But so that's
Yeah.
why I don't get it. It's like, okay, this is just a gimmick, and they're gonna charge me like $500 more just to have a better camera.
It's
Yeah.
kind of interesting, huh? It's almost like they're disguising the purpose, or it's like, okay, their goal is, okay, we want to figure out how to make the best camera. We want to keep developing camera technology and we don't have the capital. So we want to like uh
Oh.
you know, we want to fool the people into buying into basically funding this by making that like an essential part of a phone, and then it gives us the resources to like every year be advancing camera technology behind the scenes, and then when we have really amazing cameras we can start selling our cameras to like self-driving cars or those VR machines
Oh yeah.
or AR machines. Yeah, it might be like that. Like I do think that's how some things work.
Oh man, that's tricky. I
Yeah,
can
it
see
is.
that.
But I think as the consumer, it's not incredibly essential. Like people were pretty happy with like disposable cameras, I think, like back in the
Oh
day.
yeah. Huh.
Like I still like looking at those pictures from when I was younger and like from my parents' era, like just disposable camera film. Like it was
Mhm.
totally it did the job to like capture a moment and that you can remember it. And I do feel like that's basically the purpose of like smartphone cameras. Um So like they don't need to be incredibly detailed, but you know, why not, I guess? Because
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
smartphones they're not new anymore. They're like the incremental change every year is like less and less, I think. So they just need something.
Oh, and the yeah. Yeah, it's It's something that people like, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Nicer cameras. But okay. I don't know. I'm not really into the camera thing, so I'm kind of an outsider. I'll admit that. But
I
it's like I bought this phone. So I bought this phone that's basically the equivalent of do you know iPhones?
I definitely do know an
Okay,
iPhone.
so
Yeah.
well, like do you keep up with the like different product lines?
I actually do. Yeah. I'm kind
Oh,
of
okay.
interested in it, so I follow like MKBHD and these people who review them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know who that is, but that's some like reviewer that does
Yeah.
the oh, okay. Yeah, so they came out with iPhone 11, I think this year, maybe last year. And it's like I think it's like $900 or something. Pretty expensive. But it has like
Yeah.
an amazing camera. I think it's the three lens camera that interpolates or whatever. But that was last year. This year they came out with iPhone SE, the
Ah.
2020. Yeah. And
Yeah.
to me, it seems like the same phone, but with a worse camera, and it doesn't have some of the same like sign-in security features. Like this one just has a Touch ID thing instead of a Face ID.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But it's $500 less than the other one. For like
Mm.
the difference is the camera and maybe the security thing. But even if the security thing costs them like $100, it's still different by $400. The camera is they're saying that the camera costs them $400. So I feel like I got such a steal because I didn't care about a camera, getting a nice camera. So I just saved $500 in exchange for worse pictures, I guess. But this camera is actually I'm fine with it. It's pretty impressive so far.
And you've got the phone right now?
Oh yeah, it just came in last
Oh,
week.
cool.
So
Wow.
yeah, I like it. It's very fast and it was
Yeah.
cheap.
Yeah. I've been hearing about those. Um, yeah, I remember when because it's like there was the iPhone 11, and then there was like the iPhone 11 Pro, and then the iPhone 11 Pro Max, I
Oh
think.
yeah.
Those are like
Uh-huh.
the three. I think the iPhone 11 was less than like the Pro and the Pro Max, but yeah, it's like cameras matter so much. I guess a lot of people do think like the iPhone camera is the best like phone camera, and but then yeah, then you can go into how iPhone is like a status symbol, but now that you
Oh
have
yeah.
the SE, you still people will still see that you have an iPhone, but it is less money.
That's true. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think that things like that are a good step for us to take is like, yeah, we don't really need the camera. We could try to just spend less money on phones and maybe allocate the resources another way. But yeah, the cameras do sell, but at the same time, the flagship, do you know what that means?
Yeah.
The flagship of every company, they get like the most publicity and the most like talk, but I have heard that they don't get the most sales, and they don't get the most
Oh yeah.
like at this point, it is kind of being realized that you don't need to spend as much money on a smartphone, and you can get like their mid-level thing that has less camera but like similar processing, and or you
Yeah.
can get the flagship from like a year or two ago, and it's better than all like a lot of those.
Yeah.
And a flagship pretty much halves in price every year. So
Oh
like the
yeah.
one that I have is from 2018. It's a Pixel 3 XL. Now they're on like the 4 XL, maybe nearing the 5.
Oh. Mhm.
And yeah, the price has halved like twice. So I think it was like, what was it maybe around 1,000? Then it was like 500. Then it was like 200 or something like that.
Oh, okay.
So, but it's still like just as good of a camera or a phone as it was then.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's kind of I think a lot of people will recommend that. It's just kind of go a generation back. Even with cars, sounds like that's what they say is just don't buy the newest.
yeah,
unless you really want to be that person and have the car as soon as it's. I guess they even let you buy cars. Like you could buy a 2021 car this year.
Oh, yeah.
So that's probably some kind of like marketing gimmick just to be like, oh, I get the car before the year. But that kind of thing, it's like there are always going to be people who really want the newest. And I think Apple, they maybe shouldn't have done this because now people know that they can make cheaper phones.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they had a lot of leverage in being like, oh, you want our phone, you have to get this really expensive one, or
Yeah.
else you can't have our phone. But I kind of cheated them, and I have this cheaper phone, but it's still an iPhone. And I get dark theme. I mean, that's not a deal breaker, but that was kind of
Oh.
cool to see. Is like you get the latest features, dark theme being one of them, on this
Mm-hmm.
phone that's half the price.
How is it?
I
So,
was
sorry,
okay.
how is the processing of it?
Yeah, it's the same processor as the iPhone 11.
Wow. Okay.
So I mean, it's like kind of the same. I was wrong though, and I should correct myself. The iPhone 11, at least where I'm looking, doesn't cost $900. That's $699.
Okay.
So uh, the difference was $300, but still, even if the security features were, $100, it'd be a difference. It'd be a camera that costs $200 more. So that's
Yeah.
what I was trying to point out. So
It's interesting seeing how they transition because it's like, I don't know. Not too long ago, smartphones were just a new technology that just
mhm.
kind of blew everybody away and like everybody got super excited about. And it's almost like we're trying to hold on to that and like
Oh yeah.
keep the same hype up every year. But it's kind of funny, I do follow some of like the phone reviewing guys and the tech guys, and it seems like every year they're just more nitpicky and kind of just like talking about like the button is very clicky on this phone. I like that.
Oh
Or
yeah.
like
Oh okay.
talking about just these very minor details like, oh, the camera is this much better in that way, or like the
Mhm.
processor is one generation better. The FPS is now this amount. It's less like exciting because the technology is there. Like we have cool smartphones, and I feel like I don't know, we just haven't really moved on to like the next thing.
Yeah, it's do you think we're moving too fast? We're releasing products too quickly?
Um, hmm, releasing products too quickly. Um, not. What do you mean by that? How?
I mean, they'll have, they'll do, I think iPhone does one or two new phones every year.
Oh yeah,
So, or like Samsung, I think does one every year.
yeah.
Uh, I'm wondering if you waited 4 years between releases, could you put 4 years worth of innovation into it? And maybe it would be, I don't know, it might be different if you had more time to develop.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's like, you release a thing that's too expensive, like once or twice a year, and then you get all of your capital to keep working on it, and you make these smaller advancements versus like if you did it for 4 years, you'd be investing all this money, and then by the time you hit 4 years, the thing that you thought people wanted isn't the thing that people wanted.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think that's a part of it.
Fair enough. Yeah, yeah.
Isn't that kind of a programming ideology as well?
Oh, yeah, the agile.
Like
Huh.
don't like make a huge project that's going to last for this long, but rather like release updates frequently or something.
Right. Yeah, I don't really know how to. I didn't really learn too much of that, but I'm familiar with how that. Yeah. And there's some quote that talks about that, but oh, well, I don't remember.
Yeah.
I think that that spills over to business, and
Yeah.
the people who it seems like the people who will do like a yearly release, they're gonna get more business than the people who only do like the 4-year intervals.
Yeah. And then maybe it's like then after 4 years they are going to have a new product still, and maybe it's more towards the direction that people actually want, or like humanity actually wants.
Oh yeah, you mean the companies that wait?
Um no, let's say like Samsung for example, like you could
Uh-huh.
just wait 4 years before you buy your next phone,
Oh
but
okay,
after 4 years since they've been practicing every year, like it might actually be a really nice thing that you want. Like it'll have advanced in the right ways or something.
I see. Sorry, someone. I don't know
Uh
if you're watching. Okay, yeah. Sorry, could you rewind a little bit? You said something about Samsung 4 years releasing every year.
oh, just like you okay, as a consumer, you could just buy the new phone after 4 years. Like you could
Okay.
wait 4 years to buy it, but like since they've been practicing in the meantime, like the thing that you end up with will probably be like better. I don't know, or more towards the
Oh, okay.
direction that people want. I don't know.
I see. Yeah. So you have to kind of choose when you're gonna try it, when you're gonna like sample the newest technology.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. I don't think consumers think like that, but that would be pretty smart. Do it that way. Because I
I
think
guess
consumers. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, cause I like as a consumer, like I don't buy I buy a new phone every like few years. I try to have it last as long as it can before it starts like just glitching all the time and just messing
Uh-huh.
up.
Uh,
And yeah, my last phone lasted a pretty long time. It was like it was from 2015 to 2019. I had the same phone, so it was about 4 years, and then it started just going downhill. So I guess as the consumer, I just trusted that the company I bought it from would be pretty good now that I'm like in the market for a new phone, because they've
oh,
been releasing one every year and getting feedback and sales and all that. Like
yeah.
I feel like I trusted that like the Pixel lineup was gonna be pretty um trustworthy and
Oh,
like
okay.
I could buy one. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. And over time, like waiting 4 years, you have more of hopefully more of a guarantee that that's true,
Yeah.
that they're still around and doing that. So
Mhm.
I'm not sure. I don't want to speak on behalf of consumers, but yeah, I'd like to think people think about like they'll wait until they need so I'm wondering like what's their condition for buying a new phone. It sounds like for you, you buy a new phone when yours is broken or yours is like gonna die.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm wondering like what are the other conditions, or what is the like most common condition for someone to get a new phone? And I don't know if we
Yeah.
can answer that. Well, maybe you have some experiences.
I don't know.
But
Yeah, I can't just answer it, but I would just think it has to do with your income amount. Like if you have a lot of money,
yeah,
like you could probably just buy a new one every year if you wanted.
I
But
guess so.
but
I don't
like
know if that's most people.
but people kind of want to I feel like people want to be smart with their money, and like starting to realize you don't need a new phone every year, so why would I spend $900 on the newest phone?
God.
Unless you're just an
Yeah.
enthusiast or whatever, which is fine.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I don't think it's the majority of people, but again, yeah, I don't have that data.
Yeah, me either. So I'm curious though. I'm wondering how that works. Because it seems like I know people who they always have the newest, I don't know, newest iPhone. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if because like in 1 year, I don't know what really has changed that compels people to upgrade, but who knows?
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, I just bought this one and I feel like I could go a long time with it, but
Yeah, I mean,
maybe in
you probably won't buy a new one until it just gets too sluggish, right? Or when will you buy a new one?
that's yeah, that's what I'm thinking right now. But I'm also
Yeah.
thinking maybe I'll like love it so much that I'll change my whole perspective. But so far, and that's why I got this new one is because my other one was dying. Like it would just turn off. I couldn't even make phone calls sometimes.
Oh wow, yeah.
So I was just like, I need a new phone. And luckily this one was really cheap and it just came out. So I just picked this one up.
Yeah.
And if I make decisions the way I do today and in the last couple of weeks, if I make those if I have the same decision making, then I'll probably wait as long as I can uh to get the new phone or the replacement.
Yeah. I
Hmm.
think it makes sense. It's like the logical way.
Yeah, it does. But I don't know. I can't account for how I will think even, tomorrow. But when the
True.
next phone comes out, I don't know if I'm gonna be. Yeah, the next phone could have like a laser beam or like I don't know, some crazy gimmick, and I just can't resist. But you never know. I mean, we'll see.
Yeah.
Oh, I heard the next iPhone's not gonna have any ports, any like I/O ports. It's just gonna be
Oh.
inductive charging and Wi-Fi, Bluetooth.
Wow. That's kind of
Yeah.
interesting. That's a cool step forward. I mean, okay, they have what's the thing where you send something to someone on an Apple product?
Oh, is that AirDrop?
Yeah, they have AirDrop.
Yeah.
That's a cool technology that I wish
Oh yeah.
I had.
I think Android had Miracast or something. That's
But
something,
like,
right?
what if I have like a video file that's on my phone and I
Hmm.
want it to be on my computer?
Oh yeah.
Like my Android phone on my Windows computer.
Email. I don't know.
Right.
You like what about like a cloud drive or something?
Yeah,
Uh,
maybe.
I don't know if it's faster than AirDrop, but
But AirDrop's pretty fast, right?
I don't really use it. Usually I
Oh.
upload it to my OneDrive and
Oh.
then I just go on my computer. But yeah, I should use AirDrop more. Now
Yeah.
that I know there are people who wish they had it, maybe I should appreciate it more.
Yeah, I mean, my girlfriend has that, and she's always telling me like, yeah, it's really easy with AirDrop. I mean, I'm trying to like send a file between, and it's like, where's the cable? And
Oh yeah.
but that's so
Well,
cool that it's moving toward like a wireless system.
yeah, I think that's
I'm sure people will be annoyed right away, but you know,
yeah, okay, yeah. I didn't really get that, but okay, maybe the headphone one, but
yeah,
yeah, I just use wireless. And the thing is, I think if you don't have wireless headphones, yeah, you could be upset. But if you do have no air or what am I saying? If you don't have a headphone jack, but your Bluetooth is really bad, then I think it's worth complaining about, which was a
yeah,
problem with my other phone. Oh no, no. I don't think it was my other. Yeah, but some of the older iPhones had really bad Bluetooth, so that's when I would have understood. But this
yeah.
is pretty good Bluetooth, so I'm okay with no headphone so
Mm-hmm.
far.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I wonder if I could ever convince you to go Apple.
Well, I would like it. I don't have a large income at the moment.
Oh yeah,
I am currently borrowing my girlfriend's I think it's an iPhone 7. Yeah.
oh okay.
And I play with it sometimes and I like check on it. The reason
Oh
I
yeah,
always go to my Pixels because it is like a couple years newer,
yeah.
the Pixel 3 XL, and it's way faster and all that, but it's only
Oh
because
yeah,
it's newer. If I had a
mhm,
brand new iPhone, I would be happy to use that a lot as well.
nice.
Um,
Yeah.
I do think that if I had like a lot of money right
Mhm.
now and I had to put it towards tech, I would actually really like to try like the Apple way of things. I'm not
Yeah.
opposed to that. Yeah, because I know it seems like things just work and you don't have to worry about bugs as much. I don't know if I'm right about that, but like that's kind of true, right? You don't have to
It's
worry
yeah.
about glitches and things just randomly not working.
Yeah, me personally, I would always hear people say that, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's you know, that's just expected. So what's the big deal? But it's very true. Like it doesn't glitch as much as like when I had an Android, I would always be worrying about things like stuttering or freezing and just
Yeah.
being weird. So I haven't really had to worry about that. So it's true what they say.
Yeah, so like I would like to try having like a MacBook Pro and the newest iPhone. If I could, I would like that.
Yeah, it's
But I just kind of make do with what I have and
mhm.
you know, like I feel like with Windows and Android, like you can find incrementally different priced things, whereas I guess you kind of can with Apple too, but generally you kind of have to spend a premium to get the premium device.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they really get you there. But
Yeah.
it's I'll say like it's a bullet worth biting if you go to the
Yeah.
phrase of yeah, so it you just get once you're in, then you're set. I don't know if you
Yeah.
well, someone that you know, I won't say who, but they were yeah, they were trying to like convince me to get an Apple, to get a MacBook. And I think
Uh-huh.
they said, "Oh yeah, I had my MacBook since freshman year or something." And they
Oh.
used their MacBook for I don't know, 7 years. So
Yeah.
it'll get you that though that's just longer than I've ever had a Windows computer. So
That's true. Yeah.
that was pretty convincing is how reliable they are.
Yeah, that really does appeal to me as well.
Yeah, so it's kind of I guess the way you can think of it is you're spending maybe the same amount, but it's all upfront and then you
Mhm.
get your 7 years. But yeah, otherwise you can get well, all the Windows laptops I've bought like one every year or so, and it
Oh,
was probably more expensive than getting a Mac, just one Mac.
I get that. Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm just trying to justify the cost for you, but
No, I get it. Yeah, I get it and I would like it.
all right,
Yeah,
cool.
it's
Well,
probably a bullet I'll bite at some point, honestly.
okay.
Yeah.
I do think it helps with software development or with at least CS.
Mhm.
Being in school with CS, but uh, yeah, I guess something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Maybe Christmas or something. Christmas present. I don't know,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, it's a they make good stuff.
Mm.
I feel like a fanboy. I feel like the Apple fanboy I always made fun of.
Yeah, I mean, 'cause
But
you came from Windows, so you and you're still a new Apple guy, like less than a year,
uh,
right?
yeah, I think about 6 months of using Apple stuff, Apple
That's
products.
it. Yeah. So, for those of you
Yeah.
listening, Andy has not
Oh yeah, I'm
always been an
fresh
Apple
new.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I still use Windows though. I don't use Android. That's one thing that I don't think I'll be returning to. But
Oh.
yeah, I mean Windows I still think can do a lot more that Mac can ever do. So I don't
Yeah.
know. They're coming out with some Mac desktops, but yeah, I just wanted I'm trying to embrace every one of these companies.
Yeah, that's
You
good.
know,
I think as a developer, I think that's important as well.
yeah, it's come in handy to have just a Mac lying around for Unity stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, but everything's on the cloud now, so I don't think you need. Well, if you're doing, there are certain things you could just do on a cloud or whatever. But that
Mhm.
was one thing I was learning about this week is cloud services.
Oh,
Pretty
really?
cool stuff. Yeah, I feel so overwhelmed, but everybody talks about. I went to this thing at work and everybody was saying they just kept talking about DevOps pipelines. Like
Oh.
everybody was saying that containerization. Like those have been just what is the phrase? Burned into my memory. But yeah, everybody was talking about it, and I still never asked anyone because I kind of felt like, I was a little too far behind to ask.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
what is just I'll look stupid for asking. But yeah, DevOps, I'm kind of getting into that, but that's still a new thing that I'm learning about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if you like talking CS, but yeah, I mean, it'd be kind of fun to talk to someone about all this.
Yeah, I do like talking it. Well, but the thing is, I just don't speak the language well enough yet
Oh yeah, I think
at this point.
that's understandable.
I am interested and fascinated by it, but like, and I even follow certain tech YouTubers and like listen to them, but
Oh,
when they get
nice.
into the nitty-gritty, I don't understand a lot of things anymore. So
Yeah, a lot of it's just jargon. So
yeah.
it's like DevOps pipeline. I had to go look up what that meant,
Oh
but that
yeah.
means like a certain thing. And yeah, I like to. Well, like I do like talking to people who aren't as like experienced in certain fields, technical fields, because
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of fun to just talk about things at an abstract level, and it kind of tests your understanding of stuff, just to stay abstract rather than going down into the implementation or whatnot.
Yeah.
So I I can't say I have many like non-technical colleagues that I can talk to that kind of stuff about at a
Yeah.
non in-depth level. So I don't get to practice that too much, but I like to think anyone is capable of talking about technical things, even if you don't have to go into the the, the nitty-gritties
Mm.
of it all. But yeah,
Well, I think we should wrap it up.
do you want to do like an outro?
Sure. Yeah, maybe I
Somehow?
could say it and then you say like, yeah, thank you or something like that.
All right.
Or I don't know.
I'll wing it. We'll wing it.
Yeah. All right. This has been Around the Bonfire. Thank you for listening to us, and we hope that you would also join us next week.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone.
All right. Take care.